I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Paradise Irrigation District Board of Directors, Wednesday, November 16th, 2016 at 6:30 p.m. At this time, I'd like to ask everybody to please silence your cell phone. If you have to take a phone call, please go outside as not to disrupt the meeting. Now, if you'd all stand with me right now, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please, Georgianne.
Director Ken Hunt.
Here.
Vice President Larry Duncan.
Here.
President Seth Corolla.
Here.
Director Cliff Jacobson.
Here.
Director Bill Kellogg.
Thank you. I'd like to apologize to everybody. I was not able to make last month's meeting because I had a very nasty cold. Thought it probably more prudent not to spread it around than it was to be here. So I wanted to thank Director Vice President Duncan for taking over the meeting for me and making that happen at the last minute. Right now, we'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar, or if there's anything that someone wants to pull off there.
I move we approve the consent calendar as presented.
Well, yeah, I would like to move something off. I'm
I was
sorry.
waiting for you. So is somebody.
I'd like to move off the item C.
See? Okay.
See? Okay, I move the approval of the consent calendar minus item C.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes 5-0. Item C, Director Hunt, what would you like to?
Yeah, I just don't think that we should let something like this pass by. This is evidence that the district is going to be spending probably right around $65,000, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more because of the recall effort. We said at the time, and of course we had a promise at one point, that it would be done early enough to go into the regular election. That promise was withdrawn, and here's the impact of running this recall campaign. It's going to cost the district $65,000, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but we have to pay it. So I'm not going to have any objection to approving the payment of it.
Quite a large dollar amount, that's for sure. So are we going to make a motion to approve? Does anybody else have any comments on it? Anybody from the public like to comment on item C? Lauren? I'm going to ask everybody tonight, please speak into your mic. Directors, staff, everybody. We seem to be having some little voids in the recordings, I guess. So please speak into the mic, name, address, where you live, all that kind of good stuff.
Thank you. Lauren Harvey, Diamond Avenue, 1947. You guys all know it. It's only about $8 a one-time payment, and I'm sure the public's happy to do it. Thank you.
Don't know what that exactly worked out to, but
$6.50. There's 10,000 meters,
okay. I guess that's what. So, okay.
according to my math.
Okay. Thank you, Lauren. Is there anybody else from the public who would like to speak to this agenda item?
Yes, I'm Rose Kelly from the League of Women Voters of California, and I think the public should know what excuse you got for reasoning that it did not make the general election. Who dropped the ball?
Well, it was nobody on our side.
Well, could you continue and enlighten the rest of us? Thank you.
Okay, well,
Have staff.
yeah. If staff wants to address this.
The recall has a process that's specified by law. So when a recall process is started with signatures, there's a certain amount of time that's allowed for them to collect the appropriate amount of signatures to affect a recall election. And the amount they are allowed to have was more than what the county could could make it actually happen with the regular November election. So there was two deadlines. One was a certain date that had to be turned into the Butte County to make it on the regular election, and it was not filed by the recall proponents by that date. But legally, they had the opportunity to continue to collect signatures, which they did, and then they had another deadline, which they met, for actually affecting a recall election. But that made it a special election. Does that answer? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak to item C on the consent calendar? Not seeing any. Directors, any further comments? Anybody? Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar, item C, then? I'll make a motion to approve.
I thought it was, it hasn't been made?
Not when you
Yeah,
put it up.
I'm sorry. I'll make a motion to approve consent calendar item C.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Public participation. Individuals will be given an opportunity to address the board regarding matters not scheduled on the regular agenda. Although the board cannot take any action on any matter not on the agenda, comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Opportunity for public comment on agenda items will be provided at the time they are discussed by the board, with comments limited to 5 minutes per agenda item. Is there somebody from the public tonight that would like to speak to something that is not on our November 16th agenda? Please.
Good evening, Board. President Corolla. Glad to see you're healthy again, sir.
Thank you, sir.
A couple of things tonight. As you know, sometimes when I'm absent, I'm out doing research, and I was in October again. Part of what I found, I love spending time with agriculture people. Part of what I found is that more and more people involved in agriculture are looking for reclaimed water. Now, you don't make reclaimed water here, but the town of Paradise is considering making reclaimed water with a wastewater treatment facility from a proposed new sewer line. It would be prudent, I think, that PID, as a water company interested in conservation, would be encouraging the town of Paradise, through a formal letter on PID letterhead, to propose to them that PID supports a reclamation of sewage treated water for reclaimed purposes. In other words, it should go to Tuscan Ridge Golf Course so that their drinking water could go to the new home development and the reclaimed water could irrigate the golf course. Absent that, it would seem as if PID doesn't support that kind of conservation, and yet this is fairly common in several other districts. The most recent one I visited was the town of Healdsburg, population about 1/3 of the town of Paradise, who has asked for an additional 35% of reclaimed water to go into agricultural concerns. And it appears that both Sonoma County, the town of Healdsburg, and all of the public, not all, but most of the public, does support this. The more that is reclaimed that can go to irrigation, the less drinking water has to go to irrigation, therefore more drinking water available to the general public and meter holders. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Warren. Is there anybody else in the public who would like to speak to something that's not on the agenda? Lauren?
Lauren Harvey. Thank you, Board. I think the opposite. I think by the time you pay the reclaiming to clean up sewer water, we could buy water from PG&E, so I'd like you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Is there anybody else in the public that would like to speak to something that's not on the agenda?
Donna Viro. I'm not sure if I should address this now or wait till the customer assistance program portion.
If it has to do with that, then you want to wait until that portion of the agenda.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
Donna.
I just wanted to
Thank
make
you.
sure.
Anybody else would like to speak to something that's not on the agenda? Not seeing any, I'm going to close the public participation part of the meeting, and we will move forward from there. Thank you all. We're going to move to item number 4, approval of the October checks. I'm going to start with Director Hunt tonight.
No questions.
Okay. Director Duncan?
No question.
No questions.
Nope, I didn't find anything to talk about.
Director Jacobson?
Well, a comment on one thing and a question on the other. The comment is that I notice again we have the Fireflies as a $10,000 expenditure, and I think later on tonight we're going to talk about a program that's going to alleviate that monthly expenditure, or at least reduce it quite a bit. The other thing is Kevin, could I see the bid document for the CTW tire warehouse purchases again for last month?
Did I? Oh, yes, I'll get that to you. I don't have it with me. Was that over $1,000?
I believe it was about 1,800, something like that.
Two separate.
So
Each
on the
purchase
C-
was under
so
$1,000
we-
now.
Yeah, so we have the CTW. I don't have a copy of the bid sheet for that because it's two separate purchases it's two separate purchases. So I don't have the bid document with me, but I will get that for you
Okay.
and make sure that they look at that.
Okay. Just curious to see if we had gotten some competitive bids.
I will. I'll write that down right
Okay.
now.
That's the only questions I had about it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Director Kellogg?
I have several, so.
Okay.
On page 14, Aquahawk, American Conservation and Billing Solutions total $1,320. And I understand that's a monthly bill?
Yes.
And then Kramer Engineering on page 16. Kramer Engineering for lab fees. Is that
It's our drinking water testing.
and that's done where?
We do some with Cranmore, we do some with
FGL?
FTA.
They're in here.
FTL and
I saw them in there.
in Chico.
Cranmer, something like Grass Valley?
Yes,
Yes.
they are.
We did BSK Associates, lab fees. We did,
FBSK is another one.
yeah, Kramer, there's somewhere else, FGL.
We bid them out occasionally, but generally they're different. We use different labs because they have better prices and expertise in different tests.
Thank you. On page 18, excuse me, there's 4,500 gallons, I guess, of 12.5% bleach,
Correct.
3,408.32. Was that bid out, or?
That was what they did was they bid it out a year and a half ago, and what they did was they bid it out for like a 3-year contract for that bleach product being delivered.
Okay, thank you. The next page over, 19. Oh, one of my favorite. Dustin, this is your account. $12,343.26. I thank you for the detail. Where did I do it? On the checks registered. So now that detail is, you asked for that to be kept within the house on the detail?
Yes, because in my description of what I'm doing, a lot of times there's attorney-client privilege in that. So if you wanted to make it public, I'd at least like the opportunity to go through it, and if there is something that I'm concerned about it, we can strike it out. The balance of it would be public.
Okay, no, I'm not gonna ask you for that. I just was asking you about what you replied. That's the main part. I know what it is, and the directors do, because we all got the itemized bill. National meters and automation. These are.
What
class-
page?
On page 19, same page.
Same page.
Actually, down the next line from,
I gotcha.
it's $1,859.42. It says 4 meters plastic, 1-inch body, 6 meter plastic, 3/4 inch body. Model 35 register and connection, 6 meter brass model 35. There are different kinds of meters.
Meters,
Are
yes.
these for the automated system, or they're for other things?
They're just meters. That's the actual measuring water meter. And they're for new construction, inventory on the shelf, possibly for replacements for broken ones, but that doesn't happen too often.
Thank you. find the next one here. It's on page 21. It's Sierra Timber Services, $850.92. It's water recycling project. What exactly was that for?
I believe that was, we were working on getting a timber harvest exemption for the tree removals for that project. And that was the, I believe that check was for the registered forester that has to do that plan and get that approval.
That was for around the water treatment plant,
Yes.
where the trees were, okay. Thank you. On page 22, Tyler Technologies, it has bank fees and $200 for maintenance. Exactly what is that for, Kevin?
Yeah, so we pay Tyler Technologies to process our online credit cards. So when someone goes online and pays with their credit card, it automatically credits their account. So when we come in, all we do is just, it processes it automatically into the system and puts it into our bank and credits their account.
Would we pay the bank $4,000 to do that?
No, we pay Tyler to do that. So that's a check directly to Tyler Technologies for handling the processing of those credit
Was
cards.
it like a $3.50 fee or something?
It's $1.50
$1.50
per transaction.
Okay, yeah, I remembered something with 50 on it.
Thank you.
Yep.
The next one's on page 23. There's actually two here. Mobile phones. We have 16 mobile phones in the bar, and
Correct.
it's only $479.29. Doesn't sound like they use them much.
Now that's actually a little bit higher than normal. We actually are normally around $300. So, yeah.
We get that, you get that under a state contract. You get a state contract price. So we get a much bigger discount than most folks get.
Can the rest of us get on that?
Yes.
Then the bottom of the page, thank you, is here's a Firefly. Doesn't say how many. $15,159.36. These are the automatic meters.
I think they're about $75 a piece at this point in time, is
About
what
75.
Jim was telling me.
Last I heard they were around 100. Now they're 75.
Yeah, I think they're getting them for 75 right now. I believe that's correct, isn't it?
Kevin did some renegotiating.
Yeah, so what we did was through this process, we went back and looked at kind of what originally was quoted to us, and then we got this original quote, and then they increased the price on us. And so what we did is we actually went back to them and go, hey, you quoted us this, and you increased the price on this, and we basically said we didn't agree to that price increase. So we renegotiated it, and we actually have a $30,000 credit with them now for additional meters to be purchased with them, and that they're going to honor the 75 going forward. And then we also negotiated some with different warranty issues and stuff like that. We'll get into that more when we
We'll get to the meter.
the meter presentation.
Well, I won't ask for any more information.
That's a great job.
That's it. That's all the questions.
I don't know who initiated that, but it's a great job finding that. So, okay, I'm going to be a pain in the butt tonight on this. Thank you, Director Kellogg. Page 15. I know we're going to talk about it in an agenda item, but since we're looking at the checks, the Butte LAFCO fee, that will be passed on to Mr. James, right?
Correct.
As part of it. We pay it up front, and then
He paid up front.
he paid up front, and we're just, okay. I knew there was
Paid
somehow that
them
we were doing
directly.
that. Capital One public funding.
Yes.
What loan is that?
That is the one we just refinanced.
That's that, okay.
Yeah, so we refinanced it it was with, I forget the bank, but it's now with Capital One.
I didn't remember seeing Capital One on there, and that's why I was like, why are we
That's our
having-
new lender.
Okay, got it, thank you. On page 16, Consolidated Electric, the photocells that are on there.
Yeah.
Are these not covered by warranty? Are we not, is there a 1-year warranty on those lights, I guess, or?
Those we just put in new
They're
photo
for
cells out
A
here.
lower parking lot.
So they're
you
just brand new,
remember
they're just brand new.
a few meetings back,
Talked about more
we
line.
went outside and it was
Yeah,
dead
dark.
dark for everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've actually, you'll see a new thermostat over here. We aborted the
That's the-
fancy automated
That's the,
system that
that's the
came with
direct
this
digital
building,
controls? Okay.
and just went to the simple photocells in the parking lot.
Regular.
Okay.
Regular thermostats that are programmed.
So the thermostat is the direct digital controls?
So direct digital, the system was broke, so we had direct digital come out to see what it would cost to fix it, just if it was fixable. And they came out, they have come out from Sacramento, and they gave us this quote, and the quote was just crazy amount of money to fix the system. And so we basically said, no, we're not going to fix the system, and that's when we decided to go and break away from the system and put in these digital things and then just go out with photocells. But we still had to pay them to come up to give us a service person to come up and look at the system and say,
Sure.
it's shot. So
Okay.
that's what that is.
It was
Well, that
probably
was-
$7,000.
It was
Not
some
even more than that.
Well,
crazy.
I was wondering, when I saw the control failure, I was thinking, once again, is this not an item that's under warranty? So, above that, Bruce Davis, or Davey,
Bruce Davey.
yeah, we probably won't be going forward with any more weed and pest control, right, until springtime, right? That's probably our last payment, catching up for,
I would assume so,
yeah, summer.
unless we get. He does
He does weed control also.
weed and pest. So I mean, if we have an influx of pests, then I'm sure we'll call him
Okay.
back. But
Okay. It said weed control, so I was thinking we won't need more of that during the winter time. On page 18, is it Genterra Consultants? That's our dam surveillance. That's our yearly charge, right, for the dam surveillance?
No, that's our consultant. So, you selected them as our consultant for our dam safety, so they do work for us to satisfy Division of Safety of Dams,
Yeah.
reviews, etc. So they put together a report, and this is part of the fees of doing that work.
Okay, thank you. Page 19, the Keller Supply, the drinking fountains. What did we wind up with on donations on those?
I haven't received any yet.
No donations?
I haven't. I personally, I
Not
don't.
into the office.
Yeah, I don't think that we have received any.
So were they doing them directly to the intermediate school? Is that where they were?
The intermediate school, let me just
Well, I heard a lot of
remind
people.
you. So the way the program was going to work is we bought two,
Yeah,
and we delivered one of them to the school to encourage the program. The school group got clean canteens made with, and PAD's emblem is on there. Mark and Tanya helped get that on there. So they're selling those, and the profits from selling those clean canteens will pay us for the second one that we'll deliver.
gotcha.
They also were able to get a donation. I'm on, if you remember, User Board supported me being on the Sustainability Management Association board. And one of my board colleagues works for Schneider Electric. And I was explaining this project to them, and Schneider Electric made a donation to help them purchase the clean canteens. So,
Oh, nice.
So they got the costs down for that.
Okay.
So they're
I
on
just
sale
heard,
now.
I heard a lot of people that night offering up donations, so I was wondering if those donations ever came through or not. So, thank you for explaining that one. Down at the bottom of that, Oleum Supply Company, 4 quarts of oil. Is that gold oil? That,
I don't have an answer. You stumped me on
yeah,
that one.
well, it just seemed like 4 quarts, 4 quarts of oil. Yeah,
I think
a
it's
quart.
quarts. I would probably assume it's more than that, but
I think it's, yeah, I was going to say it's more like 40 quarts or something.
40
like that.
quarts,
it's synthetic.
Yeah,
synthetic, right?
okay. Page 20, I'm sure it's been on there before. This is in PG&E. The Bader Mine Road Electric, is that for the cathode bed powering? Power the cathode bed?
Yes.
Okay. I just didn't remember ever seeing beta. I'm sure it's been on
Yeah,
there.
it's been there.
Really? Okay. Well, it just stuck out to me, the beta mine part, so. But the only thing I could think of was the cathode bed that came out of there, so. Once again, on page 21, State Board of Equalization. I also assume this goes with
LAFCO.
Bob's. That's the LAFCO, the State Board of Equalization is the LAFCO
It's part of the whole
Part of
AFCO
the whole thing.
process?
Yes.
Okay, okay. That's, okay. Page 22. The sodium bisulfate. This is from the new supplier.
Now, this is a polymer that they've been using, and this is one where they do sole source it for that specific polymer because it's been tested and true and
Okay.
on how the process works.
Okay, so what was it that we were?
No, it's not.
You were referring to zinc orthophosphate? possibly?
Thank you. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. That was. I was thinking that was it. I think we were talking about the sodium bisulfate at the same time or close to it.
I just asked Bill about it, and that's what he told me.
How is the new zinc working out?
It's working out well so far. It's still early on. It's producing very good results. We haven't adjusted the dosage since the initial until we are convinced that everything's settled out. Shared the results with Director Jacobson today, and he seemed satisfied that it's doing the job.
It's actually the zinc levels and the orthophosphate levels with the new product and the same pump setting are giving slightly higher residuals than the old product was. So not only was it an extreme savings in cost, it actually is turning out to be a better product.
Yeah. Good. So, thank you for bringing that forward. That's why I was thinking that was the product, and that's why I wanted to see how it was working out. And so, thank you for that. We already talked about Zener with the meters, but the handheld unit that's on page 24, I am assuming that is so that we can program these things when we put them back in?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, bring them back alive to
Yes.
fill in the hole where we took something out?
Yes.
That's going to be part of the programmer review.
Yeah, I read it in the thing, but, you know, like I said, it's on the check, so I wanted to ask the question while we were here, so.
Well, that one's actually, we had a loaner for a long time, and they finally said, you borrowed it for 2 years.
That's
So
what, well, yeah, I
we
was.
stretched that
I was
as
thinking,
far
what
as
have we
we
been
could.
using till now? So that's why when I saw the handheld unit on there, I was wondering why all of a sudden are we buying a handheld unit, but.
That's the used one too that we've been on borrow for 2 years, so they took it back because it actually broke, and then so they said, well, you've had this way too long anyway, so we're going to keep it, and we actually negotiated a deal to just buy it directly from them on a used price instead of buying a brand new one from them.
Good. Okay. Good job. Okay. We've gone through. Is there anybody from the public who would like to speak to the October check that we just talked about, or checks that we just talked about? Not seeing any. I'm going to close the public participation part of item 4. Directors, any other comments on checks? I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval of general fund checks numbers 48984 through 50012 for the month of October 2016, totaling $474,140.20, exclusive of voided checks numbers 5,000, 50,000, and 4, and authorizing a similar amount, allowing for adjusting for extraordinary budget or board approved items during the month of November 2016.
I'll second. Any further comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Aye. Any opposed?
No, same reason as before, putting the authorization for a similar amount in the next month's.
You missed that last month.
Yeah.
Passes with a vote of 4-1, Director Kellogg being the no vote on there. Okay, item 5A, presentation and update on the processed water recycle project, but hold on a second. I think do we want to move to, because I can see that Joe's here at least. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and move to the annexation? Let's get that taken care of so that these folks can, I'm sure they're just enthralled with sitting with us here, but I'm sure Joe's got some things he'd like to do in his life. Once again, Joe, I'm going to remind you, speak into the mic, or pull it down towards you so we can hear you real good.
Okay.
So this is the annexation agreement for out-of-district account. Joe Pennington. Is Bob going to be here tonight?
No, he's done. He was done last month. Okay.
You weren't here.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say I thought that was upcoming, but I thought we were going to say, I thought somewhere in the agenda I expected to see both of them here, and I thought we were.
Paul was here and he wasn't, so that's why.
I think
That's why.
pretty much finished up everything on him, didn't we?
Okay. All right. That's why I was thinking both. Okay, Joe.
I had a chance to review the annexation agreement. I also had a chance to review in the minutes from, let's see, what's his name? James, because we had similar situations going on there. And after coming to the office here today, had a few questions there that were answered to my satisfaction, at least for my understanding. The first question I have, am I going to have the same opportunity as the negotiated deal that Mr. James had in regards to the fees associated with the annexation?
You want to take that point by point as we go, or do you want
Well,
to
I mean, we could go right. We could just go right to the heart of it, where I had on there where it was really my understanding. It boiled down to two fees. One was the LAFCO fees, which my understanding the district has no control over, so there are nothing there to negotiate in that respect, obviously. And then the other item was in regards to the annexation fees that I'm showing here for. It shows a deposit of $732, and then when I came here today, my understanding would be that or what I'm looking at requesting, if I can do the LAFCO fee with the $732.70, which is the annexation deposits and estimated fees for the work associated by the district to process the annexation, is my understanding. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that 100% correctly, because I was confused by the number that said the total annexation fee, which is the $7,327. But that I got that clarified. So if I'm able to have a similar deal with the LAFCO fees plus the annexation deposits, I want to discuss it with my wife, but I believe she'll agree with me on moving forward with the annexation and sign the agreement. Next question I would have on that, if that's acceptable, is timeframes for that to be paid, if there's any options there.
Okay, so you want to address item one that he had first, and
Well, as I answered him today, the deal that was given to Mr. James was $8,300 plus covering our costs, staff time, and legal in developing this, and that's where the $732.70 estimate comes in. So
essentially being charged the exact amount.
yeah, treating the same way as
Same way.
James.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But we have to, the board has to approve that.
Yes, you would have to approve that,
Yeah.
because you only did that relative to James previously, not Mr. Pennington.
Because they couldn't be here that night that we were there, so.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as far as timing goes, he expressed an interest in pausing
Payment.
on this until, I don't know how many months or what he'd like to wait a little bit before he initiated it, and that's certainly fine with staff as well, if it's fine with the board.
Is there a time limit or Length of time?
Only a time limit that this board imposed to have it done by the end of the year. So you could make a motion to extend his current contract 3 months or whatever the time is, and then have him proceed with the annexation at whatever date you want to set.
So Joe, what are you thinking as far as time that you would like to have?
I'm thinking, well, I'm not sure how the whole process fully works. If I do a deposit and then, I don't know how long things take with LAFCO. My understanding that LAFCO's got to be paid in full before they do anything.
Correct.
So, what I'm proposing is if I can, have that paid in full within the first 6 months of 2017 or sooner.
July 1st? We said
July 1st, yeah, for sure. I could write that.
LAFCO and ours,
Is there-
right?
Yes, for
Is there any
for
board
both.
opposition to setting it to July 1st? Is there anything that
I have a
causes us
question.
any problems with doing that, setting it to July 1st?
Done with us.
It was our motion that said it had to be done by the end of the year. So we're just,
We were,
we're
yeah,
just
we were,
extending ours.
exactly.
It's true.
Yeah.
The only risk in it would be on him is if those fees went up.
Changed.
I don't know if the
Exactly
State
what
Board
I
of
was gonna say.
Equalization fees
Exactly.
when they
Yeah,
change,
That's
but
what I was gonna say too.
What's the likelihood of something like that happening? I mean, no one's got a crystal ball, I know, but, I mean,
I think it's,
So,
I mean, it could go up, but the substantialness of it going up, I don't know if it's going to be
Well,
substantial.
I have a question for staff on that. Do we not have a policy in place to offer financing to clients over a period of years? I forget how long.
well, the fees paid to
it
us.
hasn't historically been offered for annexations, only new installations and system capacity fees, which are being waived in this.
So if we were to do it here, this would be the first time that we would have paid by far the largest amount to an outside source.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was just us financing money that was due us.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, legal can jump in, and maybe he doesn't want to jump in, but I would caution you against, nothing against Mr. Pennington, but I'd caution you against offering financing. In those cases, they're district property, and we have ways of collecting it. When it's an
Exactly.
out-of-district agreement, we can't go to the tax rolls or whatever to collect unfunded, or use the Butte County process to collect
Okay.
unfunded monies.
My question was just if we had that history of having done it before.
I've not.
So
It-
you
it was brought
you
up
want an
before,
extension on the
initially.
LAFCO fee also? Is that what you're saying?
yes, just that.
mainly for.
So if
Yes.
I could do it, July 1st or sooner, I believe it'll be sooner, but at least, I don't want to have
Once he
it,
pays,
say
how long
March
does-
and then I need another month type
Once
of
he
thing.
pays, how long does it take to get to LAFCO?
A month or two. Probably a month in this case, because now we're all trained on how it's done to do it.
So you guys do it faster?
We'll probably do it a little quicker.
And just so I'm clear on the annexation, that embeds me on a permanent basis of being in the water district, right?
I think once that's approved by
Yes.
LAFCO, then, yeah.
Yep. You get to vote in
Don't
future
get a lower
elections.
rate, doesn't he?
He gets the same rate as all other customers, which
Right, which is lower
Lower.
than what he's doing now.
What's the length of time for them to complete once he's paid the LAFCO fees?
that's a good question for Larry. Once LAFCO gets it, how long does it take?
I don't know.
Is there a time limit?
I wouldn't
I mean, do
assume
they
it would
have
be
a-
very quick.
I would think it'd be the next meeting, but I'm not positive on that.
Yeah, it
We
doesn't
meet
take too
monthly.
long.
LAFCO meets monthly.
And maybe, has LAFCO ever done any type of financing? Maybe you could
Not
obviously.
that I'm aware of.
They won't.
Yeah, I didn't think there was any.
What do they do for that fee? I mean,
You'd have to ask.
Well,
a
that is
government
really
question.
that is really the question, isn't it, Joe?
just
I'd defer that question to them.
Yes.
I just in there.
That would be a LAFCO question.
They pay their bills.
I mean, I see the benefit of doing annexation where, I'm not subject to, when water shortages, things of that nature, and if I did do it well, if we have a problem with the groundwater, things like that, and just being in the lending side of business, I understand where, if I ever sold it or refinanced it, where those challenges come into play as well for water usage. So, I mean, I'm agreeing to do it if I could just have the opportunity to have a little time frame in there, just for the time of year that we're at right now.
LAFCO, like PID, is nonprofit, so we can't charge more than it
actually
costs.
is. Okay.
So we probably are. It's probably costing us more than your fee, whatever they're doing. There's legal fees and all that stuff. So I'm sure that we're not making money off. LAFCO isn't making money off of you. Okay. You can ask Steve Lucas.
Well, for the general information for the public, LAFCO exists to monitor and ensure that the growth of cities and special districts are done in a reasonable fashion, and that the property owners are able to get the services that these entities are promising when you annex. So they really come into play more heavily in areas where you've got competing jurisdictions. So if you had two water districts near each other, they're the ones that are kind of play the battlefield of who gets what territory. Same thing with cities, but they're established by state law, and there's no option other than dealing with them.
Thank you, George. So is there any board objection to extending Joe's time frame out to July 1st?
No,
I have no problem with it.
I don't
No problem.
see a problem. If there's not a problem, staff has any kind of problem with it. Is there anything from legal that,
Well, I think we're looking for two motions. One would be to extend his agreement till July 1st, and with the existing terms, that's fine. And second would be to establish that, approve the fee structure that's been explained to him, that he'll only be responsible for the LAFCO annexation processing fee and the deposit initially, and ultimately any costs borne by the district.
okay.
That cover it?
You're going to need a resolution of application. Unfortunately, it didn't make it into this agenda packet, so we could either bring that back to you as a consent item when it's ready to go, or we can have Georgiana pull whatever resolution number we're on. It's going to be identical except for the name to the version you already agreed to for James.
Then I'll just have to sign it, and that's the only thing, and we were just
that would
agreeing
get
to
it
it.
out of the way. Yeah.
That would have it done. So as soon as the deposit comes in, we have the resolution already approved, and it's just up to staff to put together the application to LAFCO.
Okay, who's ready to make that motion? Was there anybody from the public that wanted to speak to this item? Had any comments or questions? Not seeing any, I'm going to close the public portion of this, item 6A.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, you got the motion, yeah.
You know, on TV they do that where the public makes motions.
So how do we want to word that again?
I think, is it in here?
We're going to get you a number here.
It isn't in the minute.
Do we just go through 21?
2016-22.
Give a second. We'll
Okay.
give you some. What was the motion there? Oh, was
It was on the consent calendar, two resolutions.
Motion would be to move approval to extend the Pennington out-of-district water agreement under the same terms until July 1st, 2017. Secondly, it would be to establish Pennington's annexation fees to cover the LAFCO costs and the PID costs for processing that, exempting him from other annexation fees. And the third part of the motion would be to adopt Resolution 2016-22, a resolution making application to LAFCO for the annexation of the Pennington parcel.
So moved, as the general manager has just stated.
Both of them?
All three
I
of
would
them?
add one thing to that, though, George, that it be for whatever the LAFCO fees are at the time that you prosecute it.
Very
Because they
good.
could change.
Good point.
Motion with that amendment to it.
This is what it'll look like, just with different name.
I'll second. Both motion.
Okay. Any other comment, discussion from board members?
Do the resolution first.
Okay, so we're going to do the resolution first. All in favor of the resolution 2016-22?
Roll call.
Yeah. Roll call vote.
Director Hutt?
Yes.
Director Duncan?
Yes.
Director Jacobson?
Yes.
Director Kellogg?
Yes.
President Calla?
Yes. Okay, that resolution passes 5-0. And that will be 2016-22?
Correct.
Okay. And then the motion that we just heard, the general manager, and I motioned. Do we need to do the amendment first, that whatever current LAFCO fees?
It was seconded after the amendment was patched in.
Okay. Okay. So, all in favor of that? Do we need a roll call vote for that? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Joe, you have till July 1st, 2017, and whatever LAFCO's fees are at that point in time, then that will be what you're looking at, but they will drop a resolution as soon as you pay your deposit, then
That's the $700 and something, right?
Yeah, 732.
732.
Plus the
or something.
8,300.
Plus
Oh, plus the 83.
plus
Yeah,
the-
we have to
okay,
pay
all right.
LAFCO up front, so
Okay,
we need
okay.
it all to get the ball rolling.
And then we'll have a resolution ready to go.
All right, I understand that. One other question I have on here where it shows for all notices and stuff, where those to be sent. Who do I-
Okay, we can fix that.
We can fix that. Just
Fix that. Just
all right.
contact me.
All right. Other than that, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. Say hi to Holly.
Well, we've just
will.
expanded the district. Welcome.
All right.
Not yet.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night. Okay, we're going to go back to item 5A, presentation and update on the process water recycle project. Manager Barber.
This one right here.
Yes. Thank you. This is a very informal presentation, but I wanted to take an opportunity to bring the board up to speed on where this project's at and some of the other things we're doing relative to the project. It's been a while since you've seen it, so the current project is going to involve building a few things and taking out the old. Sorry, Gordon, you can't see my pointer from here.
No.
Maybe Kevin can follow along with the pointer on our screen.
Yeah.
If you look under the 6 and the 8 and the 8 on your screen, that is where the old treatment plant is. So this project is going to demolish that as part of it. We would be constructing a concrete tank structure down here with multiple compartments and a pump station next to it. So what happens is the water, when it comes out of the treatment plant in a backwash situation, comes down to these tanks in talking about how this is going to work, especially every time we have a meeting with AECOM. We're really talking to them about the process, getting our input. They've been very good about listening to our operators and trying to incorporate their knowledge into the final design. But you always want to continue to evaluate if you're still moving forward with the best decision, the best plan. Because when this process that we're designing was decided to go forward, it was up against other alternatives, but they were all not fully developed. And so you make a decision and you carry on, but you never do, you don't get the luxury of developing them all forward to really pick the best one, because that would be too costly. We continue to take a look and evaluate, is there a better alternative, potentially cheaper alternative? We're running up against deadlines, etc. We are still moving through the process with the state drinking funds, which is a low interest rate, but it is a big lift to try and get through that process. I've had a couple people say, you guys are just doing that as a staff? I mean, many agencies actually hire someone to help you get that funding because the process is so difficult. So this one's still moving on. We are looking at options. I'm working with Neil and treatment plant staff. We really are kind of at a standstill until we get to 70%, because we're going to cheat. Because AECOM's going to tell us what they think a cubic yard of concrete is going to cost installed and how much it's going to cost to excavate, etc. So we can steal their numbers and try and apply it to alternatives to see if we're still heading down the right path or not. So we're looking at, kind of narrowed it down to two potential alternatives that we think may be viable and may be less expensive. They come with trade-offs, and that's ultimately a board decision that has to be made. But what we're looking at is the ponds. If you look up here on the top part of the screen, here's our two ponds, the current ponds. Now we can't leave them. They leak. They were basically built, one of them was just built by district staff. So they're not designed for optimal settling. They don't have kind of walls up to make sure we're not getting inflow from offside. And they're porous. They leak. So we can't, down the road, assure that we're not discharging without a pond reconstruction. So we're looking at two things we're thinking of. Reconstruct the ponds, and then we could recycle that water off the ponds if it comes off clean enough. And again, we get back to our what's normal and what are the extremities. So with middle of summer, hot weather, consistent water usage, etc., that pond water could probably be, once the pond was a little better designed, you could recycle it right off the top of that. And it would meet all specifications and be perfect for recycling. But there's times when you can't make that happen. And so then you have to prepare for what we call out-of-spec water. So the idea would be build these ponds, Trinka, initially he thought that that would have a lot of positives. It's going to add a lot of cost, but some of that added cost actually benefits the public because they get a park-like setting to enjoy that these other alternatives they don't get.
What about that water going up to the Gallia Botanical Gardens area too?
We talked about that. There's not enough area to spray irrigate and to assure we're not discharged. We're already struggling with figuring out how we could do it that up in the middle of nowhere and still meet all requirements. We're working through that. The second alternative that we're looking at is the same idea: reconstruct these ponds, set it up so we can recycle off of them, have a tank system that would collect out of spec water. And with that out of spec water, and this is a big key, is extending our NPDES permit for another 5 years. That's going to be a heavy lift. I have a meeting tomorrow with State Water Resources Control Board, or Water Quality Control Board staff in Reading to try and get their parameters and input. But by extending that permit and having this discharge of a smaller amount of water, that would give us time to quantify that water and come up with strategies to be able to actually recycle that final little bit of stream of water. Pressure filters, there's different things that you could go after to take that stream of water and clean it up and then actually recycle it as well. So there'd still be an end game of getting out of our NPDES permit. Because remember, those folks that were there for the state board presentation, it is discharge elimination system permit. Their goal is to get you to eliminate this. So I think any proposals to them has to have an end game of we're still working towards eliminating discharge. Coupled with that, Jim Passanisi has reached out to Roberts Filter. Roberts Filter is the one that has the technology that our treatment plant operates off of. So the upflow clarifiers and the filter design, that's their patented design. And so looking at any alternative coagulants, if aluminum is going to be an issue for this extended permit, Director Jacobson talked about iron. It's certainly a viable product. Our concern has always been unintended consequences. When you switch, you've got a product that's delivering clean, healthy, safe water, and you try to treat it differently, you have to take that very carefully. Ask the folks in Flint, Michigan. They would wish people were a little more careful in their planning. We don't want to replicate anything like that. We want to do this correctly. So we are looking at that. Roberts Filter has a pilot plant, which is a mini version of it, that you can test different coagulants with your actual water. They have studies that they've done at other places with different coagulants. We're trying to get that information from them and ultimately possibly come to the board with a request for proposals to send out to firms to do an official technical analysis of evaluating options for Pennington. So that's the purpose of this agenda item, bring you guys up to speed. We haven't been on the agenda other than my manager's report, so answer any questions you have, and that's all I got. Yes, sir.
Serpentine soils, you're telling me that we're gonna remove McNabb cypress and level it out, right?
There's some McNabb cypress removal, yes, down in this area. Right in here.
Yeah.
So you would cut a pad in here and then slope back to match the existing.
Well, McNabb cypress only grows on serpentine soils. So how are we gonna handle the serpentine soils?
As far as
That's
asbestos,
if you wanna
as
know.
far as asbestos, is that what you're?
I know quite well what it is.
Yeah.
It's going to be more expensive. That's being dealt with in the design of how you dispose of it, how you handle it while you excavate it. We handled it and excavated it fine on the bypass. It's
we've known there's serpentine soil since day one, so that's not like new news.
When you visit the Regional Water Quality Control in Reading tomorrow, will you be bringing up the alternatives from aluminum, for example, the ferric sulfate or ferric chloride, and what their limitations are on discharging into an unlined pond versus aluminum?
Most definitely. And I'm going to be quizzing them if they have other agencies that have waters using iron that they have experience with, if they have any concern with that, et cetera.
Well, I know that the iron levels that you're allowed to discharge are considerably higher than for aluminum. So I guess my question would be, at the end of the day, by eliminating aluminum, if we're able to do that, working with the people that manufactured your upflow filters, and we're able to successfully clarify the water with ferric chloride or ferric sulfate, will we be able to discharge that into the ponds and allow sedimentation, settling, and then recover that clarified water without having to go through the filter press and the clarification
NPDS.
system?
Does that eliminate the need for the NPDS
No.
permit because of the?
Anytime you're discharging,
Yeah,
you're gonna have that
anything.
permit.
Exactly.
If I hear you
But-
correctly, you're looking for options to not have to pay the money to rebuild the ponds, correct?
No, I'm saying that if we can use an alternative to aluminum in the clarification in the water treatment plant, that the discharge now that is going to the settling ponds and ultimately back into Magalia, okay? If we can continue to do that by taking the aluminum out, then we have a system that will buy us maybe 5 or 10 more years before things become to the point where we do have to invest in a plant like this to even then take that iron out, for example. Because if my understanding and my experience with ferric sulfate or ferric chloride versus aluminum sulfate and aluminum chlorohydrate, and the correct polymer is that over a wider pH range for less cost, we can get better sedimentation and quicker settling than with the aluminum that we're doing right now. So if we can do that, then we've eliminated the problem with clarified water for our supply downstream. And if we can still continue to discharge our backwash from our filters into the settling ponds and we get a quicker settling there, then we can recover that water quicker and cleaner. And as long as the settled iron solids are not an issue for a permit, we don't violate that, then that would alleviate having to put in the rest of this system and save us millions of dollars up front anyway, and we'd have more time to work on a viable plan long term.
The problem is that when we were going to do sewers in '92, it was going to cost $30 million. Now it's going to cost $80 million. So what I'm saying is, if we're going to get rid of the permit, eventually, the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost us.
There's permits for everything, Larry.
Right, I
We're never
know.
going to get away from permits in this world. And if we're able to not violate that permit,
Yeah, but like he said,
Fine.
the permit they're trying to eliminate that permit, right?
well, they're trying to eliminate,
Their goal
they're trying to eliminate discharges
into the river. Yeah.
into groundwater, into the ground, it will go to groundwaters or surface water that will be detrimental to us as a society. But there are some normal things that, such as iron, that are already in the soil
Well, exactly.
and are not going to cause any additional problems, even if they percolate down into the groundwater, because iron's not one of the things that's really that big of an issue.
There's no iron in our red soil, right?
Yeah.
None at all.
Oh, you need the magnet if
Yeah.
you want to get rid of iron.
So
I
you'll be
mean-
addressing that tomorrow
Yeah.
when you go up there.
And you did, have you visited the plant in the co-op between Davis and Woodland on the new water treatment plant that they put in that uses
I have
ferric
not
chloride?
myself, no.
But-
I mean, they're an example. They're using iron. It's working fine. Castaic down in Southern California uses an iron coagulant. They're very happy with it. It's a usable product, without a doubt.
And I know that prior to filtration, you're doing primary chlorination, which adds chlorine byproducts, which is also on the hit list, but by oxidizing your primary with something like ozone, then you can chlorinate after you've filtered the water, and that's not going into the recycle. So that's not going to become an issue for the settling ponds either.
That may ultimately be the only way we can satisfy the VCBM issue. It's not a cheap, long-term cheap way, and it can be a bit dangerous, but yes, it will be done.
And there was one other issue. I think the issue of corrosion came up with ferric chloride.
Iron in the pipes.
Yeah,
Since we have so much steel pipe.
but didn't we address that with the zinc orthophosphate last month? Isn't that why we're putting ZOP in our waters to protect? from
Well, we
corrosion?
found out the only problem you have to address is your feed piping, etc. There may be some changes when you change over the iron to make sure you're using non-corrosive materials. But as far as rebar in the basins, etc., there's not a concern with that.
Yeah, and you're gonna be adjusting the water back up, whether you use aluminum or ferric, either way before you put it in your distribution system, so that's a non-issue as well.
Anybody else?
Everybody get that out there in the crowd? Everybody understand all that?
Very clear, right?
Okay, was there any other questions from directors? Any questions from the public to what George just explained to us?
Yes, thank you again for this opportunity, and I do appreciate, again, George's experience as an engineer and his follow-up and his research, which he commented on in my previous comment, because I do want to address the ferrous sulfate issue. My experience, again, from the food and beverage industry and the plants that we operated, using the ferrous sulfate, calcium hydrated lime, and swimming pool chlorine as a coagulant. In our concrete tanks, we had 3 examples of over 30 years before the salts buildup was significant enough to look at the deterioration in the concrete. 30 plus years in a concrete tank. In the steel tanks, which are bitumistic lined, the only problems was a buildup on the metal parts of the impeller, which was physically cleaned off. You drain the tank, you physically clean it, no harm done, no harm, no foul. Very simple systems and much less expensive to operate. Thank you for your time.
Is there anybody else in the public that wanted to comment on item 5A? Yes, sir.
Ron Stanley. I worked for the Santa Clara Valley Water District for 31 years. I was wondering, we had a pilot plant that we built, and it was a reclamation plant. But I'm wondering if we could put a small pilot plant in and go with Cliff's suggestion to see in-house how it would process our water and if there would be any ill effects, so to speak.
Isn't that what you're saying, that Roberts Filters is?
We're exploring that with Roberts Filters, that they have
Yeah,
one
right
already
now.
built. Roberts Filter may have one already available for us to use
Roberts?
and build our own. Yeah.
Yeah, apparently their pilot
Yeah, if we
plant, is similar to the full-scale plant that we have. So a test with that system would be more appropriate than something we'd put together because
Oh, okay. As long as we could get
may
the volume
settle.
of water down there to make a real.
right, we would
Life.
have to use our water in their system, which is a pilot system of the plant that they currently have, with the upflow filters and everything to get a comparable result or to
Sure.
evaluate it.
Sure.
I understand what he's saying.
Yeah. Hey, if a pilot plant like that's already available and we can get enough quantity of water down there to get viable results, I'd say go for it.
Thank you, sir.
I think is that not a portable plant, George, that they can bring on site?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, because we'd have to pull our water from our source.
Our main.
So it would be typical to what's flowing into our plant now. So if we took it and transported it off-site, it wouldn't be the same water at all. It would change
Yeah,
quite a bit.
and we would have to evaluate it for a long enough period of time to satisfy the drinking water folks before we made any changes, because everything we do there is permitted by state drinking water folks. So everything we do, testing and trying things out, has to be hand in hand with them through the process.
So one more question for me, George. So after your meeting tomorrow with Regional Water Quality, if they give you a thumbs up on a procedure like this, what's our next course of action? Are we then going to actively pursue this pilot plant and move forward with that, or what's the plan?
The plan is when we get enough information together for the board to make a decision, then it'll come to you. So that's, in my mind, it is the information from the state Water Quality Control Board. It's the 70% design up to date and costs, and our internal analysis, and we'll bring all those forward to the board to figure out where you want us to go next.
So before we continue on the path of this recycling system for removing the effluent from the ponds and back into our headwaters, we're going to have the time to flesh out this other alternative. And
well, when it comes to board decision time, I mean, this is going to be it's very dicey. So we're trying to keep it on parallel paths, because the state Water Quality Control Board is expecting us to continue down the path with the design we've chosen, and any pause of that would cause them great concern. I don't think they have an issue with us evaluating something on the side. So the question really comes down to, there'll be a kind of a break point where we have to figure out which direction we're headed, and I expect that'll happen in the next few months.
so where are we at in our commitments to money we've expended and money that we're going to guarantee to expend towards this parallel project then?
We've expended 70% of the design budget, plus or minus. And keep in mind, all the work that's done by AECOM, not all of it is wasted. A lot of that's environmental work that can be used. They've done the work on the 42-inch realignment. So that's something if this board decides to head in a different direction, we got to sit down with AECOM and negotiate an exit strategy. That's I mean, we have a contract with them, so I can't answer simply how easy it is to divert from that.
That contract right now is for the design phase,
Yes.
Design.
so we don't have a contract with them for a build yet,
Oh, no.
correct?
No.
Okay, so,
There's no build contract at all.
okay.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen, we've paid most of the design fees already. There's just a
About
small amount remaining.
70% or so.
Okay. All right.
Okay, any other questions from the public? Tom, was there anything that, I know you drove all the way up here, is there anything that you wanted to add, or?
Very interesting.
Did,
You guys have a difficult problem to deal with, especially since the NPDES permit is on the ring. We will do whatever in our power is possible to help with whatever direction you move.
I appreciate that.
My understanding is right now we're in compliance. Is that not true? On levels?
We've been in and out of compliance. We've had DCBM exceedances multiple times, couple aluminum. I think what he's referring to is we have a time schedule order approved
January
by
1st,
them
2018.
that says we will no longer discharge by beginning January 1st, 2018. So any diversion from our proceed ahead, even if we're not completely done by then, they'd be okay if we were in process. But if we start diverting from our path, we're going to need to get their approval at some point to bless our new path.
So this sounds like this should be priority number one for us then,
It is for me.
as far as things to do.
Yep, it is for me.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions from directors? That was an information item only, so we don't have to vote on it. George, thank you for that. Tom, thank you for coming up and saying that sentence. Yeah.
Come up from?
Zach,
Oh, it's not that far.
on there. Okay, we're going to move on now to new business, item 7A, PID Customer Assistance Program, Manager Barber.
Yeah, this is a clarification request from the board, and a request for staff's recommendation, because what we're asking for is a little not only easier for us to implement, but it's also a little more friendly to our CAP customers. So basically, you can interpret the end of their current approval two ways. It can be for when the water is consumed and then it's billed in January, and then if they're currently approved for the program, then they would be eligible for their discount through the January billing. But you could also interpret the action that was taken to say it's only valid through December billings.
Yes.
So we're here seeking clarification, and our request is that we go ahead and allow those folks currently enrolled to maintain that program through the January bill. We will still start collecting applications December 1st. That will give folks a little more time to get them in before the February billing, which would start the new cycle. And then it gives our staff a little breather because we're implementing rate changes January as well. So
How many positions did we have available for this? 1,500 and something,
Yeah.
wasn't it? So I'm still shocked that we only have 630 customers that have taken advantage of it.
Maybe we don't have that many on CAP.
We had 800 people at Paradise Performing Arts Center saying that they wanted lower rates, but
you have to keep in mind, this program is not eligible to folks that live in multifamily. So those folks that are in mobile home
care.
parks, or they're in apartment complexes, it's not available to them because the owner pays the bill under a business rate.
sure.
So that cuts down. So basically, people that are renting a single family home or live in a single family home or mobile home on a single parcel are the only ones that can really take advantage of this plan.
So it's pretty much a no-brainer. I think we want to just extend this out and make it easy on staff and the customers that are taking advantage of this program. It works better for them. Is there any comments or discussion, questions?
Well, I have some, since it was my suggestion. I can tell you what the intent was. The intent is to make it as simple as possible for the public to understand. With the recommendation that I see here, public is not going to understand it. And we all know what happens when the public doesn't understand something. They get all fussy about it, and there's a lot of time and effort spent on something, even if it's to their benefit. And I think that it doesn't really matter when they pay the bills or when the water was consumed. The idea is that people qualify during the month of December, and it's effective with bills they receive from January 1st until December 31st the next year. That's something that's really easy for the public to understand. They aren't going to care when they drank the water if it's water that was consumed in the month of January, and then they got the benefit for a lower bill in February. It's just a date. We can make it effective on any date we want, And I thought it was clear the way that it was originally written, but that would be my recommendation, is to not confuse the public and to, just let people sign up in December. When they sign up, they're already approved. As long as we haven't exceeded our count, they have their PG&E bill. It's a done deal. There's no more decision that needs to be made. You just register them and put them on the billing cycle for whenever their meters are read in the month of January, and they get their January bills. Anyhow, that's my opinion about which way it should go.
Can I interject?
Sure.
I believe that this was when it was first established. It was established for a re-enrollment period, based on the assumption that there was going to be an exceeding amount of people that were signing up for this. So I believe that based on the numbers that have signed up, the re-enrollment period is kind of taken away the teeth of what it was truly there for, was allowing others to have advantage of it and not allowing everybody just to overwhelm this, and then not let those other people that were left in the dust to not be able to get this.
Well, plus people that their situation might have changed. They were on care in 2016, but as of October, they got a better job, or their family, household size changed, whatever the case may be, and they were off the care program.
Right. So my suggestion is to make this as simple for not only for us, but for the public also, to continue. I would think of it more as a continuation of their care program, more than a enrollment into the care program. If someone comes in December 1st and signs up for the care program, they're going to get it for January's billing, and then they'll re-enroll and get it for February's billing. It'll be an automatic re-enroll. So my thought is to make this as simple as possible for us to continue the people on there, but also simple enough for the people that are already on there to continue on the program.
The people that are already on there, though, should be coming in with their bill, showing us again that they are still on the care program.
Yeah. I need to counter Kevin a little bit, because I had an extensive conversation with Laura. So whenever the board decides this ends, so if it's through their December billing, they're still effective. Once that billing's done, we're clearing them out. The easiest way to deal with the computer programming is she pushes a button and it clears that field for every customer. And so they don't get started again until the paperwork's refiled and we put them back in.
Well, the whole idea is to make sure that they're still on the program. Odds are they are on the program, but they're going to need to bring their bill in so we
Gotta
can
bring
see.
their proof, yep.
Yeah, because that was, if they, like I said, if their situation has changed, if we did have a full 1,530 people or 80 people that it was originally, then if you were taking advantage of a program that you were not eligible for, and there were people that were eligible for it, then, which was our intent in the beginning, we thought there was going to be more than 1,500. Apparently there's not. But yeah, we should be checking to make sure that they're not just taking advantage of a program they are no longer eligible for. Just like PG&E sends out every year, if you're on the care program, they don't just assume your situation's never changed. You re-up it every year. You have to fill out the paperwork, and you have to reestablish your eligibility.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's necessary to go through and clear everybody out. If you give them a 2-month period to re-up and to just
Then they
prove
just be
that you
left.
have it on there, if you get 605 customers that have re-upped and proven that they're still on it, I don't see why you would go through and clear out 630 and re-input 605.
I do. I know why.
Why is that?
Because you're just looking at the current base right now. What happens when we have 2,000 people that want to apply for it? Now you've given permanent, long-time preference to the people who got on it early and are renewing. And my intent was to say that because we thought we would have more people, okay? Just because we don't have more people now doesn't mean in 2025 that we would not have a clamoring of people that exceed our ability to serve everyone. Okay. So that was why I said It's brutal. You sign up for it, you get to use it until the end, but once again, now it's a first-come, first-served basis. I didn't know how else to make it more fair. And maybe that's not fair to people who aren't mobile, but they can probably get somebody else to bring their application down. I don't know.
Those issues.
Yeah, so if that's the board's intent, then we would clear them all out. Everybody would have to refill out an application. The application would go through a review process again, and then that review process, that then you would be then sending the letters out to everybody again to inform them of yay or nay.
So are we, so on, well, the review, we have a review process? If you're on the CARE program, you're in, aren't you?
No, we review that you are eligible on the CARE program and that address does meet the specifications of the address of service, and that you are the person.
You're not a
that's-
multifamily or
all the different
exactly.
things.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
I think I got to go along with Ken on that. It seems pretty simple. If during the month of December, you come in and show that you're still eligible, and January 1st, it starts over, and if you don't, it ends December 31st. That seems pretty straightforward to me.
Are we sending any letters out to the 630 people that are on it right now saying your discount, your $10 discount is going to end?
No,
No, just,
it's in the newsletter,
Okay.
reminding people to sign up again.
okay, and not on the bill or anything like that, the people
No,
that
we
are taking advantage of the
Can't
program.
differentiate bill messages
Yeah,
by.
exactly, yeah.
But you
But you could put just a
insert-
general statement that just says, if you're on the PG&E CARE program, remember, December is the.
We could make that
yeah.
a statement.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking, maybe we want to put
Also,
something in there.
couldn't
that-
you insert something to the 630 people?
Easier just to.
Well, no,
Put it on
because the
statement
billing
for
comes out
everyone.
of
Somewhere else.
Tyler.
I'm just trying to make it easy for the customer.
Yeah, no, so that, no, we can't do it on that end, because we're not in charge of the billing anymore.
I think a statement
least
on
we
the
don't
bill's
load the
fine, and
billing.
if they don't follow up on it, that's their bad.
So, is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on item 7A? Donna, didn't you have some questions at this time?
Dan Wentland. It may not be real often that I would possibly have agreed with Ken, but I agree with Ken on that. The senior center has a needy senior program. We do the same thing. They start in January. It's a calendar year. It's the end. They have to come back in and reapply if they're interested, because I agree with what some of you had said. Circumstances can change, and they may
Absolutely.
be making more money. They may not, whatever. But if they really need it and they're concerned enough, they can come in and do that. And if they can't come in, they can have their caretaker come in, whatever it is. So, thank you.
If we have enough demand for it at some point in time, then a first-come, first-served basis is the only way to go at it fairly. Yeah. Don, if I remember, when you came up earlier during public participation, you had some questions on this.
Okay, I have a couple questions, several issues. I had addressed this to the board a couple different times regarding the breach of confidentiality, and I was told by the board that this was public information, and it was not a breach of confidentiality because it was not confidential information. In turn, I did, through the Freedom of Information Act, I requested the specific information that I received on the backside of my letter, which was double-sided, to basically show that this is not public information, that it is confidential information. I have gotten conflicting answers from the board. You first said it was public information, and the letter I received in return for my request, I was denied because it was confidential information. So I'm concerned because I'm bringing this to the board, and I'm being told specifically that it's public information.
I don't think we said it was public information. There was no confidential information, if I remember correctly. That was what was said, was there was no confidential information on there.
Yeah, I can, if you want to continue speaking, I could respond to that later, whatever the board's preference is.
Okay, well, and we have it on recording that You basically referred me to go find who you guys are supposed to be reporting to. And when I received my letter in return saying that I was not able to get this information because of confidential information, that shows a conflict of what the board is telling the public. So my questions are, how are you guys going to make sure this does not happen again? Because obviously this was a very big faux pas on your account. Because you guys specifically in the meetings at the Paradise Performing Arts Center spoke directly in regards to the confidentiality of these types of situations. And I'm very concerned that this is going to happen again. So, and the other thing is how many letters of apology did PID send out stating that this...
To our knowledge, you are the only person this happened to. And we contacted the person that was on the flip side of your bill, the information that you received on the other side, and they had no problem with it. If I remember right, they were fine.
We sent an apology letter to that person.
To them, okay, and there was nothing.
We reached out and contacted them.
Ultimately, you keep bringing this back to the board. So ultimately, I'm just going to have to really just spit it out. What are you looking at from us? It seems like you're looking for some kind of financial restitution from us.
No, that is not what I'm saying, and I've never said anything like that.
I think before we stated this was, as far as we can tell, a one-time thing. Your bill, got in there somehow backwards and printed two sides. We don't have anybody else that I know of that said that they got a two-sided bill or someone else's information. So other than our apology to you, the machine's not set up to print on both sides. It can print on both sides, but it's not set up to print bills on both sides. So ultimately, I'm trying to figure out what you're looking at from us, because this is like the sixth time that you brought it to us.
No, this is the third time. You need to learn to count.
I've heard this at least 5 or 6 times, and I will bet I can go back in the record and find it. But all that aside, I'm trying to figure out what you ultimately want from us. Other than an apology, other than we've called the other customer on their side, given them an apology, we've apologized to you, I don't know what you're looking for. I don't want to sound callous, but I don't know where to go from here. I don't know what more. Blood, I don't know what you want from us.
Okay. First of all, where did you get the name of the person who was on the flip side of my letter?
I believe you provided it to us.
No, I never gave anybody anything.
You showed the letter to us. Absolutely. I remember that from the first time you came in.
Okay, so you're telling me that only 2 apology letters went out, mine and this other lady's?
Well, there was only 2 sides to the piece of paper, so
You were the only one that happened.
as far as we know, because nobody else came forward, without anybody else coming forward, I don't know how else we would know that someone else got someone else's information.
Okay, well,
If there's a way you can tell.
You're calling this a clerical error. That was much deeper than a clerical error. And my question to you
But
is
wait, are you saying this was done with intent then? Because if
I
it's not a
did
clerical
say
error,
that,
then it was done
Seth.
with intent.
You're putting words in my mouth.
I'm asking you.
I did not say
are
that.
you saying it's done with intent? Because if it's a clerical error, machines mess up. That got messed up.
Seth, let me explain something to you. When you set up a copy machine to single side a packet of paper, it's going to single side it. It has to be set up to double side it. So my question to the board is, what have you done to make sure this does not happen again?
They press the single side button. I don't know what more. It's not set up to print on 2 sides.
I can answer the question.
So maybe Kevin can elect.
Again, we do apologize that of what had happened. This process is not a mass process. It's an individual process that we do as we go through applications. So just for information, it's a letter that's sent that says yay or nay on this CARE program or on the CAP program. So as we go through applications, that's when we send these letters out. So it happened that we probably did 2 or 3 letters during that time, and it was a faux pas on that it went and it was set up to do 2-sided copies, and we didn't see that. So to answer your question, we now go through each one of those letters to make sure that they are single-sided before they're even put into envelopes. And we not only do that, but we also we check the count. So we go, okay, we know that we just processed 5 applications. How many envelopes do we have here? 5 envelopes. Okay, that gives us a better idea too. So we're doing it 2 different ways to make sure that that doesn't happen again.
Okay, well, obviously training needs to be done for the people who are working with confidential information, because I'd been an administrative assistant for many, many years, a high-level admin, and that is a basic task for any administrative assistant, no matter what level. And for that to take place within our own PID is very concerning. And this is why I'm asking, and I feel I have every right to ask why this has happened, but every time I inquire, I get something else told to me. And for me to be told basically to go on some wild goose chase is inappropriate to begin with. Now, getting back to this re-enrollment thing, it could be very easy. You could send a specific document designed by PID to the customers on the CAP program. They have to fill it back out, attach their newest PG&E bill, and mail it back in. For you guys to have had every applicant stand in line, that was a breach of confidentiality in the first place. It should have all been done by mail, so nobody knows who's low income and who is not. So this is why I'm bringing it to your attention again, because I really do think that it needs to be addressed and it needs to be taken care of. Because when the board itself is giving me conflicting answers to my questions, shows that basically you're just trying to dismiss me and in hopes that I will go away. Well, I'm not the type of person that's just going to walk away. So this is why I need to have the board realize how in-depth their faux pas has been. It wasn't just my letter. There had been other people who had received double-sided letters. But to send out only 2 letters of apology, that's concerning to me as well. Because you're not accepting responsibility.
I think we did accept responsibility, with all due respect. We took it seriously. Nobody else brought it forward to us. If there had been multiple people with your concern, everybody would have gotten an apology letter. But again, it's not a mass-produced process. It's a very small batches. So we're not talking about a problem that happened across an entire mailing. So we took it seriously. We apologized where we thought it was appropriate, and hopefully that's good. We tried to do our best.
Well, when you're working with confidential information, you just can't have somebody who doesn't realize what the ramifications are. And I really do not believe that there is no one that this PID board has to answer to. Thank you.
Well, Donna, from the board and staff, I once again apologize to you. I don't think that we were ever trying to dismiss what you said. We took it seriously. They looked into what the problem was. We had nobody else come forward. I'm sorry that this happened to you. The other person was contacted that was on the other side of the letter that was provided by you. But from there, I mean, humans make mistakes. Not that we're trying to do that way. It's just something that can happen. But it sounds to me like they have taken the appropriate steps to make sure this doesn't happen in the future. And that's all we can do from there. I do like your idea, and we'll talk about it as a board, maybe, of figuring out some way to maybe re-up the people that are already enrolled on there. I don't know if that was the original intent. I don't think all 630 people showed up to the door at the same time, so I don't know if it's a breach of confidentiality that they were all there. If I was on the CARE program, I really wouldn't have any problem with letting anybody know that. It's a $10 a month, gratuity that you're getting on your bill. It's not huge. I don't anticipate that you're probably or assume that you're a high water user. So it's not like we're putting out a lot of information about you on that. So we'll decide how we're going to go forward on the process here. But I do thank you for your comments. And once again,
Mr. President, can I close the loop on this? Because she referenced her Public Records Act request. That came through my office. I don't have it in front of me, so my recollection was you requested the names and addresses of every customer that received this. And there's a Public Records Act that has the general rule that every document, that piece of paper that comes through this office is a public record unless an exception applies. Well, one of the exceptions in the Act is personal customer information, such as home address, utility usage data, those types of things. There's a procedure where, notwithstanding that it could be deemed non-disclosable, if the public interest in the information outweighs the privacy interest, the board can nonetheless disclose it. So there's kind of a balancing that the recipient district should engage in. And we received your letter. It came to my office. We talked about it. And it was partly because of the sincere concern you expressed at multiple meetings about how sensitive you felt this information was, that I thought it was not appropriate to give the name and address of every person that was on this program. Now, that doesn't mean...
Somebody else's name, address, and account number. I didn't request it.
This is not an argument. I'm not arguing with you. I'm describing to the board the request that you made. So, not everything in accordance with this program is going to be treated the same way. If you or any other member of the public would like to see the letters with all of the information redacted, we can do that. If you want to see the kind of 10,000-foot level view, what is the district spending every month on this program, that would be disclosable. But when you get into the specific information, I want each customer's name and address. That's where I felt that the privacy interests of the folks on the program were more important. So that's the full story on the request.
Okay, because I know somebody requested how much water each of the directors used, and that was not a privacy problem.
We disclosed that,
Right.
yes.
Well, I would think that if it was a mistake to give one address out to another individual, it would be a bigger mistake to give that individual everybody else's address. That would be saying that we really don't care about your privacy.
Well,
Just to clarify,
I would like to speak one thing. One thing that Donna's failed to say on her behalf is she was told in this meeting that information was not confidential, and that's what brought up the issue of a request to see if it was confidential, and then it turned out it was confidential. That was the issue. And I think one of the things that I've heard the board repeatedly say to Donna is, that there's no, I think we were referred even by Mr. Cooper here, that this was covered by the Sunshine Act. That was a reference that you made. Check that out. Maybe you should take this to the grand jury. They're putting the onus on her to answer her own question. And it's like we just haven't gotten a straight answer regarding that. The way we got the straight answer was to, for her to put in the request. We were assured that it was going to be denied, but that was different than what we were told in this meeting. And that's where our conflict is we're getting double
questions or double answers for the same question.
I think you're not comparing apples with oranges.
Well,
You're comparing a whole list with one person's address.
we didn't want the list.
Well, no,
we
but that's what
we
you
wanted
asked
the
for.
denial that we knew that it was a confidential document. That was where we were coming from.
I think we were talking about two different things. When I said it's a public record, I'm talking about those 10,000-foot details of the program. I'm not talking about the names and addresses of each person that's in the program. So I remember that discussion. I don't know if it was last meeting or the meeting prior to that, but that's what I meant. Absolutely. You know, what the district is spending every month or on a yearly basis, that's a public record. But when you get into the more granular detail of which person, which address, that's where you get into this balancing that the district needs to engage. And my thought was partly because of the concerns you've expressed. I mean, why on earth would the district then consider disclosing the names and addresses of the 630 people on the program because you have treated this so seriously?
So I could show you exactly that it's conflicting information. That's the only reason I wanted to get a letter from PID saying this is confidential information. Because I was told previously that it's not confidential, it was not a breach of confidentiality because it was public record.
Well, again, we're discussing two different things. Just because it's not a public record that the district has to disclose does not make it confidential.
When you're giving out names, addresses, and account numbers, that's confidential information.
That may be to you.
I did not request the information on the backside of my letter for the lady and her address and her name and her account number. That I did not request that. That came to me on the backside of my letter.
All right. Well, I could see we just have a disagreement in terminology. That's fine. I don't consider that confidential. If there was a lawsuit, for example, between two people, they would have to disclose their addresses and those types of information. There would be no prohibition in that. That to me that means it's not confidential. But certainly to you it is. That's fine.
Not in a lawsuit. The reason I requested the information is just to get the letter from PID showing that you're giving me two completely opposite ends of the spectrum answers. Thank you.
Okay.
And I would like to commend for the new process of change. I think that will make us as customers feel more confident in what the way that the paperwork is being handled. And I do agree with whomever, I think it might have been, I can't remember who said it now, about sending out applications for people that are already receiving the program. I think that's an excellent start. They should not have to go and start all over in disagreement with Dan Wetland, just because of you have a low usage on this program. And we want to make sure that as many people that did avail themselves to it can continue to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ladies. Once again, I apologize, the board. I don't know where else we can go from there on this. Was there any?
Have some training for the people who are working with the confidential information.
I will make sure that happens, Donna. Apparently, they're not a very well-trained staff in there. So mistakes do happen. I'm sure they never happened in the office you worked at. I know they don't happen in our office ever, so they just happen. Okay.
I've been here 40 years, and I've received 3 notices from the town with my address on it, and it was somebody else's paper. All I did was go back and give the paper to the town. I didn't make a big deal out and say that somebody doesn't doing their job.
This is.
I think we beat this up.
I think I know this is.
The reason I bring this up to you again and again is you people are the ones that specifically made a big deal of this at the meetings at the PPAC about the confidential value of this paperwork.
Donna,
That's all
Donna,
I'm saying.
We understand. We're doing everything in our power to keep it confidential. I don't know where we can go forward from here, except that we have made, Kevin has told you the process we are going through, and that's all we can do is go forward. Can there possibly be another human mistake in the mix somewhere in the future? Absolutely. Can't make that promise to you. But they are doing everything in their power to make sure that it's not. And that is the end of the story. So if you want to bring this up at a future meeting, it'll probably be the exact same end as we are here. We'll probably say the exact same thing. We'll probably wind up with the exact same conclusion. They are doing everything in their power to make sure it doesn't happen again. We apologize to you. That's all that can happen from here on in.
I'm
I-
just bringing
we
this to the
thank you for-
board's attention
we
because
thank
I
you-
got conflicting information
Thank you for your
directly
time.
from the board.
I appreciate it, and your suggestions, I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak to the customer assistance program? Not seeing any, I'm going to close the public participation part of item 7A. Directors, is there anything else that we would like to comment on?
Well, what do we,
I,
I'm confused as to what we want to do.
well, I think we don't want to act on this item. I think we leave it the way Director Ken Hunt said that it should be. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Can you
that
tell me what that is, though?
Well, that is an open, that's,
December 31st is the end of the enrollment period. And
December-
if you have not enrolled by December 31st for the next year,
December 1st through December.
Change to the program.
So,
There's always, just to be clear, so everyone knows, the program is open for enrollment until we've exceeded the number that we are able to fund.
be into May.
Which has never been an issue. So it's not a matter of the enrollment period ending, it's a matter of
Starting.
when the 2016 program stops and the
Okay.
2017 starts.
so why don't we then say that if the quota has been met and/or exceeded, then it's not available until the next year.
so
Already part
let
of
me
it.
try to get what my clarification is. When do the people that have signed up already, and we're going to open December 1st for the next year, when they have not applied, when does that stipend fall off?
December 31st.
So as of January 1st billings, they no
Water they
longer are
use.
getting that stipend, even though we're billing them for December's
December's
water.
water.
Correct.
Okay. If
Because
that's
it's going to
that-
come back on the other end. What does it matter? It's 12
that's the
months.
clarification that I was looking for.
Yeah, it's 12 months.
Okay.
Motion it.
You need a
Can-
motion?
Can I
That's-
just
this is a motion
add a
item.
little problem to this mix in defense of those folks on the program? So just think of the logistics. We start December 1st, in the middle of the holiday season, and that's when people can apply. So basically, if they don't make it in during December, then they've lost a month because they won't be reapplying until January. There's going to be a group of people that don't even realize there's a re-up period, and they're going to not have an opportunity to get signed up until they find out. So I'm just trying to make sure the board understands this isn't just about staff.
We open enrollment at
It's not
December
just,
1st.
It's not just about staff's benefit. It's about these folks and not cutting them off. So
Yeah.
basically, they've got 2 months to make sure they get signed up to continue the program. Under your proposal, they've got 1 month. And we'll do whatever you want. I just want to make sure you were clear and understood that.
Why don't we start enrollment on December 1st, 2016, and participation in the 2016 year, January 31st?
Seth, could you make a motion and we'll find out if we have anything? for this
Well,
stuff and get the word
That's what
out?
you're, ultimately,
That's what we're proposing.
that's what you're proposing.
That's what this motion does.
Okay,
So if you want to make that.
so
motion.
for the establishment of enrollment.
Okay, I move
Will affect.
approval to establish that open enrollment,
Re-enrollment.
re-enrollment for the Customer Association program will affect February billings to the current year up to and including the January billing for the following year. That
I'll
gives-
second.
yeah, that gives everything that gives staff what they want.
Yeah. And
And
that
Well,
covers,
and it's,
that gives you what-
it's more friendly to those
Yeah,
on the
it's more
program.
friendly to the customer.
That's what I'm trying to make clear.
okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Director
Before you
Hunt.
leave this agenda item, there was a couple comments from the public about us sending a letter out to those that are currently on the program, directly to them with an application. I want to make sure the board knows that this is an agenda item discussing this program. If you want that to occur, then make a motion to that effect, because it's not our direction or intent to do that otherwise.
Where do the billings come from? They come from
That
this
comes from
office?
here.
That would come directly from here.
That would come from us directly. So it would be
That's an additional document to the billing.
Correct.
So you'd have to
be a
initiate
full
an
mailing
additional
cost.
Mailing.
Yes,
Oh, new mailing. You
Yes.
can't do it with the bill.
Well, the bill goes out, from Tyler,
yeah.
so
That's the
You
problem.
couldn't
totally
put it-
different place.
Okay.
So-
It couldn't be put in the
We're going to
newsletter?
have to mail.
It's already in the
It's already
newsletter.
in the newsletter.
Well, I mean, an application form?
No.
You give them, if you gave them 2 months, I think it's good enough. If you're an adult, if you're not responsible enough to take care of that, then shame on you, you shouldn't get it.
Is that the board's consensus?
Yeah,
Right.
that's my,
Okay, I just,
Yes?
I don't
Yes?
think we can
Okay.
mail it out.
thank you.
If it could be an insert, I'd be for it, but if it can't, I'm against it.
let's see if it's a problem before we solve it.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a 8-minute recess till 8:40, and we will reconvene. I don't think before.
I thought there was, but I don't know. Sign ordinances. Yes. Changed since I was on there.
Okay, we're going to reconvene at 8:46. We're going to go on to item new business 7B, board member training. There's not really too much that needs to be discussed on this. We're just setting a date, so I'm not exactly sure that I'll be here for that date. So
I do have a question related to this, and it is if there's other agencies around, really small ones like Durham Irrigation District, Parks and Rec, Paradise Parks and Recs especially, that have this required training. So I want to know if the board would allow other elected officials to join in on
did
this
that like
training.
4 years. We did that like 4 years ago.
About that. Will they share the expense?
Well, it's however you said it. So
I mean, we're paying for those
You-
services.
You have not ever paid my firm.
Oh,
We do this as a courtesy.
that was pro bono.
yeah, but
So I think it's just.
we
food
could charge them.
expense.
No,
Yeah, it's a
no,
food
if we're-
expense.
No. Fair is fair. If we're not getting charged for it, I have no problem with.
No, let's have them bring
I
food.
think the more people are there, the better discussion we get and the more interaction.
I think we should have them bring food at least. If they ain't bringing cupcakes, they're out. So
Personally, I have no problem with it. I think it'd be a better, livelier meeting. with
didn't
more
we
people.
do that like 4 years ago? I thought
when we did the training last, I think we had a couple people.
it was during the day from the charter school. Joined in because they needed some ethics training because my buddy Paul was in
Yeah,
it.
that might have been 4 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is online training still available?
There is online training for the ethics. I'm not sure we would have sexual harassment prevention training available online or not. And to be honest, I don't think online training for sexual harassment prevention
Be a smart idea.
is advisable or effective because it's very important training. For those that don't know, it's not our insurance, but California Special Districts Association. I've been to their training before, and their highest incident of sexual harassment claims has been against board members. So I would recommend against doing anything but that as a group so everyone's on the same page.
I think it's just a good showing that we're all here, too, at the same time. So, dates. There were 2 dates that were available, the 9th and the 1st?
First through the 9th.
First through the 9th. I was thinking, like you were saying.
Oh, did you?
My office
You
is
did?
available first through the 9th.
Did I?
In Butte
Oh,
County-
was that the calendar? Sorry. I was trying to figure out what you were telling us there. The meeting's tonight. So the ones that were available, the 7th.
The 7th is actually Butte County Special
Oh, that's the
District
special district,
Association.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And it's here.
Oh, so every day it's not. This,
So you're looking at
So what day of the week is best?
first, second, third,
Might as well just
sixth,
stick with
eighth.
the
Let's do it on Friday the 3rd.
Friday? You want to do it on Friday?
Why not?
I don't know.
Friday's a slow day for me.
Oh, is it?
Well, I mean, you know, all my customers are going home early,
It
so.
seemed like it was about 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah, it's 2 or 3
Combined?
hours in the morning or 2 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the afternoon after lunch, yeah.
It's 5.
5 hours.
Or 2 hours in the afternoon, sorry. It's
2 and
2 and
2.
2.
See, you'll still get off early, Larry.
And what are we covering in those?
Ethics?
In the morning
Morals,
is,
ethics, and
morning will be sexual harassment prevention training because we'll have our staff in that as well. And then the afternoon will be the ethics training.
The Brown Act training.
Friday the 3rd. And starting at when? 10?
10, yes.
Going till 2?
Or 3 if
Three.
you want
Or
an
2 or
hour
3?
lunch.
Oh, it's 3. That's right.
I don't know if I'll make it or not, but if I do, I'll make it at least for the sexual harassment, but I might just go online for ethics. That would just tear a whole day out, and I don't know what February's gonna be like. Maybe it's gonna be wet and it won't matter.
Yeah, I move to set the Brown Act and sexual harassment prevention training for February the 3rd,
You know, I wrote it on
2017,
Starting at 10.
I'll second.
starting at 10 a.m.
Might as well look towards the crowd out there. That seemed to be a conflict out there. Okay. Any further discussion? Anybody from the public would like to comment on that?
Rose Kelly from League of Women Voters of Butte County. First of all, I'm curious about the Brown Act training that you're doing. Is it your firm that's doing it, sir? Yes. It is. So you're not doing the computerized like other cities do. Yay.
I was going to say I think that's better because it's interactive. You can ask questions. We could give real world examples of good things, bad things. There was a recent newspaper article about a water district somewhere giving a $1.3 million loan at 0.8% to one of their managers. So stuff like that we try to make it interactive. Did you read that?
And I'm hoping that you will also address, and has nothing, I don't know your business so much, but I do know quite a bit about the Brown Act, because that's one of the core values of the League of Women Voters is to make sure that there is sunshining on contracts and things like that. But I would hope that if it's not covered, that some of you will ask what can be discussed in closed session. Yeah, because that's pretty much a gray area, and I'll
People's always
forward.
with this in closed session, so we always.
Oh, I wish we could be.
Our legal is
Oh,
always with this.
legal. I thought you said the league, and I said,
Our legal,
I
legal,
wish. Yeah.
I know, really.
I would love to.
We'll ask legal if there's a way
Especially
we
down
can have
at,
the league
yeah,
in on closed
exactly.
session, but-
Which brings me to another question, and is this open to the public?
Well, it would be agendized because we'd have a quorum of the board. It would be agendized as a meeting. I don't know. Are we providing food? That would be, I think, maybe if public
they can
comes,
brown
maybe
bag
brown
it.
bag. Yeah. But yes,
It's open.
It's open to the public. So, and is it held here in February, or is that still to be determined? Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Russ.
I guess that's what we can just.
Anybody else in the public
Did
like
we
to
want-
ask a question or comment?
Do we need to say whether we want other people to be here or not?
I think it was, since it was not being charged,
So the consensus is if others want to join us,
yes.
you're okay with it.
Okay, and then the only thing, if we are going to do lunch, that they would be interested in paying their portion of food costs.
Or watching us eat.
Yeah,
Or-
watching us eat.
Or actually just providing the food, so one of those. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Some of you might have noticed Director Hunt has left the building, and that was the end of his last final meeting. So, okay, we're not close to 10, so we're going to move past 8 right now. We did the board recess. Committee reports. Butte LAFCO, Director Duncan.
Okay. We met on the 3rd of November, and we had a public hearing on the City of Oroville Riverview Terrace annexation, which passed. And then we also did a annexation for Lake Oroville Area Public Utility District. It was to do with the casinos. And then we adopted our 2017 calendar.
Okay, thank you, Director Duncan. Water Conservation Committee, Directors Duncan and Kellogg. Director Kellogg?
We talked about different things. Ward, would you like to add anything to what you were quite active in the meeting? Do you want to say anything?
Well, I did mention, like I did here, about the conservation efforts in other districts and recommendation to support reclamation of water as a water conservation measure, but also that we had looked at opportunities for the upper parking lot landscaping, virtually all an opposite floor plan of what Patrick Ranch has done, making it simpler for us from a design concept. Just to look at that triangle they have used on the reverse format on Park Road.
Jim Landrini helped us a great deal talking about water system. George talked about we'd have money to be able to put the park in up here and others, and piping for watering it. It's not a very large area. It's meant to be a demonstration thing for drought plants, and we talked about bees and butterflies, plants that attract them, and they have those at the Patrick Ranch. So the easiest way for us to come up with a design is what Ward just mentioned, taking Patrick Ranches and selecting certain things out of there. And there would be a small path that would go in with a circle for you people to turn around and walk out, and names on the plants. And we broke the committee up into little junior, less committee. Ward and I are going to work on the garden part. Jim Ladrini and I can't think of the man.
Michael Spees.
Michael Spees?
Yeah, are going to work on the water plant, how to put it in. And then at George's suggestion, they're going to work on different tools that Michael has brought to our attention that will control the water and can be demonstrated to people in the community. So the little garden and the auxiliary places where we put other plants in will all be part of a combined educational garden. And without saying it, the plants have to be deer resistant, and in some cases we'll have wire around them for at least a year, like chicken wire, to keep the deer. But once these plants are established, after a while, they can take pretty close hedging from the deer and survive. That's what I've been told. And we'll put little wire around the bottom of them for the gophers don't get. And this was another thing they told us about at the Patrick Ranch in our tour we went on that Doug Flesher set up before he passed away.
What about moles? Do they bother plants?
Moles are eating insects and they travel on the surface, but it would keep them out of
They
harming.
mess up my parking lot all the time.
What's wrong with your
Those are voles.
Moles, that's my.
No, those are voles.
Voles?
Voles.
Well, I thought maybe they might.
Let's not get too far off. We've been doing that so far tonight. Okay, that was about what we did, and we broke up into groups, and the meeting lasted about an hour, which is what I try to keep the meetings at. And our public members are really working and helping with the committee. I want to really thank them and their participation. That's all the reports.
Thank you, Director Kellogg. You're going to be back up again here, Paradise Lake Recreation Committee. Director Kellogg.
We talked about, let's see, Jason filled in for Greg Dobbs, who's still recovering from a back injury. George was there. Jim Pastorini, I guess, has a shoulder injury, and he's recovering. Sierra Pacific Industries, Kieran O'Leary, he gave a thing, I'll cover it in a little minute. Upridge Coordinating Council, Darrell Wilson. Paradise Rec and Park District, Steve Roderick. I don't remember if Steve's there. I have him as being there.
Steve wasn't there.
He wasn't there, okay. And then public members, there looks like we lost all three of them for that meeting. What we talked about was, the first thing we had to talk about was an informal presentation from Sierra Pacific Industries District Forester Karen O'Leary regarding the timber harvest plan located on the part of the, it goes around the boat landing and up well beyond that. And what he talked about was all the regulations he has to go through. He's 6 months away from firming up his plan. The plan is at least an inch thick at this point, with all the different regulations and things that he has to do with the state, and since it's near forestry land, national forests, and et cetera. And he's a very easygoing man and has spent a lot of time working on this plan and presented to him. One thing I asked him when he got done was, how does this affect our watershed? And he said, well, the way the plan is made, that very little harm should come to the watershed. In fact, they'll have to close harvesting if they get close to creating an erosion problem and fix it before they go on. So it was a very good information. I wish some of the environmental groups had come from the public, but they didn't. The next things we went into was the North Lake Boat Launch Project Status Report. And George gave the report on that. If you want to bring them up to date on what you said, George?
Yeah, I can handle that. We are working towards getting an escrow. We're still not in escrow yet. There's been conversations back and forth between our surveyor and the county on how to do this appropriately, whether it needs to be a boundary line modification or not. We've gotten legal involved to make sure this is done correctly. So they are back on it, and hopefully we'll be able to get into escrow shortly. It's now down. They've done the survey work. It's all office work at this point for them to get it to the point where we can get into escrow, and I don't see why the 30-day escrow won't get it all wrapped up. I've also talked to Mike Trinket, Parks and Recreation District, and he's going to check, but he thinks that it'd be appropriate for their $20,000 contribution to be put into escrow instead of going through the rigmarole of us paying it all and then asking them for reimbursement. So we're trying to make that a little smoother for both agencies.
Thank you.
Paradise Lake recreation activity up there. Jason did part of this, and he said permit activity and sales are what we normally expect this time of the year. It's pretty slow. And Jason is the only employee up there. And then he talked a little about cleaning up around the PID property with the backhoe, working with the sheriff's crews on that, where homeless people have abandoned camps and things like that. And then the road around Paradise. Okay, this is about bicycling, and we had a complaint about the new gravel that put down by the district that it was put in such a way that it would cause accidents. And the man involved went out with a tour with Drake and the Jeep, and they located the areas that needed to be worked on, or at least he thought so. Our crews have gone out there and done handwork to try to lessen the problem. And then we had a recreation event up there where they had bicycle races, and they interviewed the bicyclists involved, and they didn't see anything that would cause them problems, and got along fine. So in the end, when Mr. Eakins, who made the original complaint, I hope he's satisfied with the work we've done, but we've got it to the point where the staff feels that there's no need to do any more, and that other than people being careful when they use it, there are signs up about liability telling them that they should take care of themselves, basically. There was another discussion. We had a letter about the fees to try to prorate them instead of having annual fees and so forth. And the discussion with staff and everything was, and its fees for annual use passes, the staff basically said that it was more trouble than it's worth, that they should just leave it the way it is, that it'll work out with the people coming up there. So we just left it alone. Decided not to do anything, not to recommend anything to the deal. I brought up about needing additional help, and they felt that the only additional help will be needed in the busy times of the year where maybe just a part-time patrolman or maybe 2 patrolmen have to work at that time of the year. And that's going to depend on weather, of course, and how much entrance. And the other problem is they need assistance for taking care of these illegal camping and dumping activities. So nothing special was brought up. That was my idea. Do we need additional? Well, they're managing it. They will have additional personnel as needed up there. And Larry, anything you want to add to this?
No.
So that again lasted a little over an hour, and that's what I try to keep the meetings at. And I know Robert's Rules of Order is not Larry's favorite subject. We stay within an hour. And Ward found out also. And that's it. We thank everybody, the community support and interest in the lake.
Thank you, Bill. Good report. I'm glad to hear about the trail around the lake. I generally thought mountain bikers usually liked obstacles, but I guess...
Not ones that slide.
Yeah, I guess maybe not. So, okay, our next report's going to be very short because Director Hunt's not here. So, moving on past...
I ran it.
Oh,
I ran
okay.
the meeting.
Do you want to go ahead?
There was an accident on Clark Road, and so he was late, and I was the vice president, so I
Okay.
ran most of it. But anyway, we met on yesterday, the 15th, in South Feather, and it was quite a turnout. And because there weren't enough nominations for the empty seats, there will be no election. We railroaded a couple people from Chico to fill the position.
Nice.
And we weren't even at the depot, so it was a good job. So anyway, we do have a full thing, but there will not be an election. And then Mike Trinka gave a presentation about how the minimum wage is really affecting his district, and he's hoping it doesn't hurt anyone else anymore, but because they have so many temporary people that going from $15 to $19 is really going to hurt them. And he's leaving before June, so it won't. He's going to help, but it won't be his problem when it really hits. And it was a good meeting, a lot of attendance. That's it.
Thank you, Larry. General Manager Report, item number 11. I can see a lot of the stuff we've already pretty much touched on, but...
Yeah, you've got my written report. One thing to add, I'm meeting with Butte Fire Safe Council tomorrow morning. I think I reported this long ago, and it's taken a while for it to gain hold and move forward. If you remember, we had a contract with the Butte Resource Conservation District to do a forest assessment, and they got that project off and running very well. The next step in that was to hire a registered professional forester to actually do a forest prescription for all of our lands that would be best for our watershed and more fire safe. But it kind of stalled because that has quite a cost to it. Well, Butte Fire Safe Council worked with us, and we were able to get a grant through the Sierra Nevada Conservancy to do have a registered professional forester do an evaluation and a CEQA document for all of our lands, coupled with other agencies, the schools, big property up there, and basically most of the watershed of PID is going to be covered in this project and covered through a grant. So we're kicking off that process tomorrow morning with the forester and Butte Fire Safe Council to get it rolling. So that was a really good positive that we're going to be able to move forward. Butte Fire Safe Council took the lead because one of the big benefits and one of the hurdles we always face when they find us grant funding for our watershed is CEQA. You know, I do what I can CEQA-wise, and you've had a few come before you, but it's always a hurdle, and it's hurt us in some applications because we couldn't get the projects done in time for the funding. So by doing this, we can do this global CEQA document that can be referenced when we do any project in this area. So it'll streamline their grant efforts going forward in the future. So,
Who's our contact over at Butte Fire Safe Council, like our main contact?
well, I'm working with Brenda Reitmeyer. She's an interim. Callie Jane Birch is their normal executive director, and she's been out on maternity leave. I think she's coming back in January. We got a great working relationship with them.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
The other,
Did you talk to Sarah Peterson at the Butte County Resource Conservation District about this?
Sarah was looped in during the grant application process, and then basically it's been turned over to Fire Safe Council. So I'll ask Brenda. That link could have been lost when Callie Jane went on leave. So I'll bring it up in the morning.
Yeah, they still have it on their accounts receivable.
I'll also cover the battery issue. You got a pretty lengthy, very, very technical report in the staff reports. It's just kind of where we're at right now. No action looking for the board tonight for sure.
We're going to put this on the December calendar, though?
Yes, because Jim's going to work with Kevin to get the financial analysis embedded into that to bring forward to you folks to figure out best course of action going forward. He was able to locate some batteries at a really good price, $16. He's done some analysis on what time it takes to install them, some analysis on when to do that, and so it's been a
pretty extensive report.
Jim really took the lead on this and ran with it. He's continuing to do more investigation. He got a lot of help from another water agency, and he's working on, he talked to their general manager today to get their okay to get information from them. So we're going to get a hold of what they've found and what kind of actions they've taken going forward. So we'll wrap that all up to you as a board in December and figure out which direction is best to head forward.
Okay.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yes, please.
I talked to Jim about that today, and I think it would be nice if, and they're almost at the point where they're going to decide which batteries are the best to purchase, and I don't think it would be inappropriate for them to be able to purchase enough batteries to get this program going. I hate to see us have to wait till the December board meeting for us to approve some type of expenditure for batteries. I think if we keep the cost, maybe we buy 100 batteries and keep the cost down below what would require a board approval, you've got the authorization to authorize that purchase, and I think that once Jim and Keith, if he's working with him, come to the conclusion of where we should get the batteries from, I think we should get those and get that program going, get it out there, because I'm seeing every month we're replacing more and more of those units, and the money we're spending on those replacements, could be offset real quickly by batteries instead. So the sooner we get that program going, the better it would make me feel. So I don't know what you feel about that, but I'd hate to wait till December's board meeting to come to us and say, do you think it's okay for us to move forward?
Yeah, it's clear there's some instances that batteries are going to be the solution. It's probably not the blanket solution.
Right.
So the plan was, he was trying to figure out which batteries were best, and we were going to keep moving on that, but we weren't going to stop and wait for board approval. So we could handle some of those, especially now. It's winter, rainy days. We've got a couple field guys trained on how to do it. Take some load off of the meter technician guys. So we fully intend to.
Good.
We're not going to just stop and wait for board
Yeah,
approval.
because changing the batteries takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you got to replace the unit, you got to unwire it and rewire the new one and program it anyway. So if you got to take the batteries out and reprogram the existing unit, there's only 5 minutes longer to do it with a battery change out versus swapping it for a new unit.
So how many of these things we got? We got, if I remember right, something like 8,000.
Got about 8,000 left, I think.
Wasn't that? Well, that was a pretty good number. Of the firefighters, the repeaters.
If I remember correct.
Okay. So if we do this on this mass scale, like we're going to do it, and do it in a timely fashion,
And we're not proposing a mass scale replacement.
okay.
We're not. We're
Not just gonna
planning
go
on
at it
getting
and
ahead
get
of the
them done
curve.
and get them out of the way? Or?
Well, if you noticed in the report, there's one certain code that gets sent out,
Yeah.
and those are the ones we need to take care of to get ahead of the curve. But there's enough out there that are fine, depending on when and where they were manufactured. So a blanket full, we're not ready, or do we need to do a full scale attack this all at once?
So, okay, so I saw in our checks, we had one of those handheld units, which is what my question was on that Zenner purchase. Will we not need probably a couple more, or at least one more of those handheld units to?
That can wait till next month, and that'll be part of the financial evaluation.
Yeah, not now. I'm just thinking that, that's probably.
It's
gonna be
likely.
something.
I
Okay.
think what this is going to, and correct me if I'm wrong, George, but I think this is going to end up being a maintenance program more than just a big major change out, because what's going to happen is these new Zenners have the same batteries in them.
Yeah.
And the batteries are part of the weak equation, and we have had some batteries fail in the Zenners, not nearly to the level of the others, but that's because they're newer. And so I think going forward, it's going to be one of using the handheld reader and being proactive, having a maintenance program where we check these things out, and if it looks like they're getting ready to have a battery failure, then we change it out. And if it's a device failure, then we change out the
We can
whole
plug
unit.
into them and get a read on how they're doing, how they're
Yes.
performing.
Yeah, they'll throw out a code.
They actually throw out a code that comes to the office.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I know that, but if we, there's no like preemptive code that they're throwing out, like, you
Yes,
know.
that's the code.
That's the code.
Okay, that's the preemptive code.
Yes, they're throwing out, they're saying, help me, my battery's
Battery's
going
going
bad.
bad.
And if you ignore it, then,
Then
But
the
if
whole
I
unit
remember,
dies.
but if I remember, Zenner just redesigned their machine to work around the original battery that Datamatic used, right?
Yeah, so the Zenner is similar, but it's different. So the Zenner model according to Jim, has a less power requirement than the Datamatic system.
I mean, they redesigned their unit to go around the
right.
original
So
battery.
theirs is supposed to be using a less amp battery, but the failure unit of the Zenners from other agencies who have put them in is less than 0.5% failure.
That's incorrect, and Jim and I discussed this. The batteries are all 19 amp hour batteries. The two of them
38.
together are 38. They're wired in parallel to give double the amperage
Okay.
and the same voltage. And so when they talked about, even Data Magic and Zinner and all these guys, when they talked about power source, when they said 38 amp hours, they were referring to the battery pack.
Both. Okay.
And a battery pack is two batteries that are 3.3 to 3.6 volts, 19 amp hours, wired in parallel.
Got it. Okay.
So, yeah.
Well,
That electrical's mine thing.
the failures we have had with Zinner have been immediate failures. So there hasn't been any long-term failures with the Zinner models yet. So we haven't seen that.
They're under warranty.
We have a 20-year warranty, 10-year,
Yeah.
and then a 10-year sliding
So
warranty.
Zinner, we're really not as worried about. I mean, it's the Datamatics we have no warranty.
Well, and that's where we get into the financial analysis, because
Yeah.
there's a $85 warranted Zinner, and then there's a $65 partial warranty. So that's, let us crunch the numbers, and
Yeah,
we'll
that's
make a
fine.
decision.
No, that's fine.
as
Just-
soon as-
And one thing to
Just
remember
things to
too-
think of. That was a pretty extensive report, and so just while it's fresh in my head, wrap my brain around a couple of things because I'll remember them.
I mean,
But-
Data Magic warranted their units too, and then they went out of business.
Well,
And the same thing
We're
could
taking
happen
that
again.
into consideration.
So I think for us, if we're proactive about it, if we've identified a weak area and we have a solution, then that needs to be part of our maintenance toolbox that we use when it's appropriate.
Definitely.
the problem always was replacing the battery, and then we voided the warranty. But now we don't have a warranty problem. So
I want to back up what Cliff's saying. We shouldn't wait to the financial analysis. It's pretty obvious that,
they're not.
okay. 'cause
So
battery-
let me just give you the direction that we're headed.
Yeah.
We are going forward like it was a maintenance program to get a financial analysis of is it worth continuing on. So let me stop you that we're not just waiting for board. We're doing the maintenance program to find out if it's a financial viable solution. So we're continuing to go forward with the maintenance program just like if it was in place, so that we have the information to know, is this a viable financial decision?
You say maintenance program, what is that?
It means going and looking, it's taking a report from the Datamatics system and looking at the code that is associated with battery failure. It's going out to each one of those Datamatic things, it's taking them out, it's opening it up, it's looking at it to see if it's the battery failure. If it is, we're replacing the battery with a new battery, we're sealing it back up, and we're putting it back into the ground.
That's an ongoing program now.
That's what we are doing currently, and we're taking a financial analysis to see if that program is viable versus buying a new one off the shelf
Plug it in.
and plugging it in with the assurances that you have a warranty and that the failure rate on these has been proven that to be very low.
The district that they talk about and don't name in the report. Now, my understanding is that they've been replacing batteries as a regular thing with their whatever meter brand they have. I have no idea from this report. Now, why can't we just simply do that while you're...
So what he's talking about?
That's what we're doing.
We're doing
Exactly
exactly
what
what
he's
they
doing.
are doing.
Okay, how about the once we got drums and these things out there, why don't we go through those and figure out which one of them was possibly saved, it still has some life in it, and the ones that are failed or they broke the seal or something else, we recycle them.
One thing that we're pretty darn clear on is if they're sitting in a barrel, they're dead. So one of the things we found is to be successful and have it work, you got to replace that battery in a time frame that's appropriate.
Otherwise, the internals go bad.
We
For
went
whatever reason.
We went through at least 100 of them in the barrel and looked and investigated each single one of those. So we went through multiple variations of looking at them.
I understand what you're talking about then. You're actively taking the ones that are giving the code that they're about to fail, and you're going to go test them, and if possible, replace the battery now, not waiting for your financial study.
Correct, yes.
Yes, and just do the information for a financial study. And the ones that have failed completely in the barrels, you're just keeping them around, I don't know what for. I would think we possibly get somebody to recycle them, but,
We will.
okay, because I've gone out and looked at them, for a long time, they were stored in 4x4 bins that had the top open, rain came in and everything else, and I'm
Right.
sure that those are dead and for the length they've been there. But having this opportunity now to service and save, we're gonna save the district a lot of money. Just look at our bills this month for the new ones. And that's what I wanna make sure that that's what you're doing.
That's what they're
Because-
doing.
Well, not through. When I read the report and went over it, I considered this as, I'll just put it in my blunt English, and I'm not known for tact, is a snow job. I don't think the data, I have to look at trials for varieties of things and what to sell. And I looked at this thing, and it doesn't have any statistical data. In other words, this is a picking up random deal. Well, when they took up the random ones, did they take them out of the old bin, or did they take the latest ones? It doesn't say. And I don't think the report is well done. And it's a delaying tactic, that the way I interpret it. Now, you're telling me you're not going to delay it, waiting for the economics.
No.
And you're going to work on it now, then I'm satisfied with it. But
And this
I'm
is
gonna
a-
make a decision based on the report.
Maybe I could
It's
answer
an
part
interim
of that
report,
for you,
and we're
Bill.
not asking you to.
Yeah, right now, this is just, that was an information report.
Yeah.
In December, they're gonna bring us the real thing, and then we're gonna have a big
But
discussion.
I hear what he's saying, I can answer that for you, okay? That report, they can't go out in the field and take take units that are in service that are working and find something wrong with them. So the only thing that we can do is take ones that are giving the code that says, I'm about to have something wrong with me, or the ones that are in the bin, they've taken them out and they've taken like 50 or 100 of them and tried to test them all, put batteries in some of them, most of them failed. So they come to the conclusion, which the other water district did too, that there's some volatile memory in that was programmed in, and there's a capacitive energy stored in there, so that when the battery is exhausted, like when you take the battery out, the capacitive charge keeps that volatile memory, that program alive, so that when you put the battery back in, it can go back to what it's doing. But if the battery goes dead and the capacitive charge is gone, it's like you're off life support. And if we could be the manufacturer and be able to reprogram whatever chip they had in there that they programmed, we could probably fix it, but they're gone and we can't. So when it's dead, it's dead. So the ones that are in the box, unless there's got enough life left in the battery to keep the charge, so that even though it doesn't work, it's got enough memory to where when you do hit it with a new battery, it comes back to life, then they can fix that. But so far, what they've checked of the ones that they could test without going out and interfering with the ones that are working, most of them aren't repairable. But they have found out from their own experience and from the other water districts that if you catch them when they give that code and change the battery, you'll extend the life of most of them. So that's the plan going forward, is to, the ones that are gone, but let's not lose any more unless we have to. So if they give another code and they can't be repaired, we replace them with a Zinner, with a warranty. If they give a battery code, we spend $16 and 5 minutes extra, we put the battery in it, maybe we've extended the life another couple of years, maybe 5 years, maybe 10. So that's, I think, am I correct in that?
Nope, you're on the right track. That's our current thinking. And if it changes, it'll be based on financial analysis and direction from you. So
Okay.
the reason the report is in there is Cliff came into the district with an outside view, questioning, which is awesome, and he came up with a great thing to dig into. We put the interim report in there so you as a board know we take it seriously, we're investigating it, we're working on it, and we'll continue to move forward on it.
Yeah, I'm happy.
This isn't our full report yet.
I think you guys have done a really good job since I said, you know, to hell with the warranty, the company went bankrupt. Let's see if we can put batteries in them. And you've done a really good job so far of that, and I'm happy with it. I think going forward, we're on the right track. So.
Okay, let's move forward. Because we beat that one to death, and we're still going to do it together in the December meeting. So,
It was a good meeting.
that was a good meeting, though. Any questions from the public on the general manager's report? Not seeing any, we're going to close the public participation part of item number 11. Directors, any comments? Anything else? Moving on to item 12, legal report.
I have 3 topics. Happy, just for my own sanity, to have filed the appellate brief in our state mandate matter. I have a copy in my email inbox. If any director, I'll get it out to staff tomorrow. If any director would like a copy to read it, it's 50 pages of arguments about what the Constitution means. So it's not exactly thrilling to most people, but I'm happy with the product, and I think we've got a fighting chance. The next step, this is our opening brief. The state will have an opportunity to oppose it through their own brief. That my memory of that is it's sometime in early 2017 that their due date is. And then we will get the final word in a reply brief. I will likely request a closed session meeting once we have the opposition brief so that I can walk through it with you as a board and get direction if there's any strategy calls, those types of things. So if you want a copy, I'm more than willing to copy you on the email transmittal tomorrow. Let me know. The second item, I reported last month on the state's progress on permanent water conservation mandates. Not a lot of developments. We still don't have kind of the state's written proposal. I keep hearing, whispers of proposals, which is not good. We wouldn't like it. The one development since last month is George and I and less than a handful of others around the North State are part of kind of an aqua, what would you call it, a subgroup? Working, I don't know. But it's those of us that are very interested in the water right implications of what the state's considering. And we've been noisy enough to kind of slowly redirect Aqua staff to also take this issue seriously, which to their credit they have. And we worked on an insert to a future Aqua comment letter specifically on the issue of water rights and the implications of mandatory conservation. I expect that I will have a lot more to report, potentially even an agenda item in your December meeting. We'll see how things go. The final item I have, another topic I mentioned last month. This is the Water Quality Control Plan update. And I mentioned that the scientific basis report had come out. It was just, I think, about 24 hours old at your last meeting, so I hadn't really had a chance to dig into it. I haven't made it all the way through 500 pages yet, but I've made it through a good portion. One observation I have is it's extremely weak. What the document says is it documents all the species declines, fishery declines in the delta, and then it jumps to the conclusion that therefore there needs to be more water in the delta. Well, that's an extremely simplistic analysis of the problems in the delta. I mean, it's not just volume of water, it's quality of water.
Salinity.
It's where it's at, where the salinity line is. Yeah. It's the nutrients in the water, predators, temperature, timing. So it's not just a volume issue. It's this really big, multifaceted problem. The other observation I have, this this is primarily directed to the ag districts in the valley, but you can just kind of see the writing on the wall here that the state is going to demand more water for environmental uses in the delta. What the figure they come up with on the San Joaquin River, which is a little ahead of us in the process here, is a 40% unimpaired flow standard from January through June. What that means is, PID as a reservoir owner, if you had that same standard, you would be required to release 40% of your inflow from January through June. That would have catastrophic water supply impacts. I mean, we would be dead pool in many years. But the state's response to that, and it's clear in the scientific basis report, is you could just go to groundwater. And there will be no economic impact because you'll still be able to grow a crop. There will be no environmental impact associated with loss of water supply. We don't have a robust aquifer here that you can rely on. So we've got some unique issues that, we're going to have a lot of allies here. In fact, except for the environmental community, I think we'll have allies from all water districts throughout the state, north, south, everywhere. Nobody likes this unimpaired flow standard. And I was actually in a meeting with some folks from the governor's administration. They don't even like it's unbelievable. Nobody likes it except the water board. So anyway, this is a really big deal, and this is going to continue to be a big deal into the foreseeable future. So I just want to keep it on your radar. We're going to have allies, so it's not like we're going to be going at this alone. But we will have some unique issues. South Feather NID. You guys kind of have a lot of similarities on some of these issues. Mm-hmm. Foothill agencies, you own your own reservoirs. So I think it's good to kind of keep your allies in mind on these types of things. So that's all I have. Yes.
Any questions?
The California Agriculture, it's a public magazine that comes out from the University of California in Agriculture. It talks about all sorts of different things in ag. But the publication I just got today has statewide maps, including this area, the whole state, on what basins are in trouble with groundwater loss, in other words, it goes through the map, and it shows areas in Butte County that are of concern. And I think that would help you if you got a hold of a copy of it. There's no charge for subscribing to it. And looked at those maps and information that has in it, and George should too, because it is current and it is really revealing, even though it's a general map for the whole state. It shows the worst areas in the state are the Los Angeles area basin, Santa Barbara, population centers in the south that are in danger on all their, not just surface water, but groundwater circumstances. So it would be an interesting article for you to read. Open got a little bit of it.
I'd like to see it. I have clients that are very interested in the SGMA, Sustainable Groundwater Management Act.
Right.
And thankfully, the problems we have up here in the North State are minuscule compared to the South San Joaquin. Mm-hmm. In the Kern subbasin, Kern County, they're 1 million acre-feet overdrafted per year. Can you imagine trying to write that?
Yes, but there's also an article that they are trying to write it by ponding like we have down in the rice belt. We have the fields that are flooded in the winter. They're talking about creating that just even in grapevines and other crops to recharge that water table in
right, but
Kings County.
They don't have enough surface water to do that. There will be less ag in the valley.
From us, Dustin.
We don't have enough water to sell them.
Have any of those lawmakers actually visited that Delta model in Sausalito to see how changes in water supply affect the Delta actually, and the intrusion of salt water in from the bay based on how much water, when and where it comes in or goes out of the Delta?
I couldn't tell you. There is a very interesting study. It's maybe 2 or 3 years old now. But there's this love affair at the water board with what they perceive as natural flow. They want to see a more natural flow regime of water coming into the delta. You know, big flood up in the spring, and then it drops off significantly in the summer months. But what the study shows, if you know, I'm sure the water board would disagree with it, but the study says the volume of water coming into the delta is exactly the same, or roughly the same, as what it is presently. Because way back when, before there were dams and levees and those types of things, the whole Central Valley just ponded up. And you had all this riparian vegetation that would consume the water, and it would seep into the aquifer. And so not a lot of water actually made it to the delta in comparison. So it's roughly comparable to current conditions. So that just tells you that throwing more water at the delta is not necessarily the solution.
So earlier, George and I were talking about this, a crazy thought, but the Magalia Reservoir is low because the Army Corps of Engineers won't let us raise it because of the earthen dam. So we need to build a new dam and a new roadway there to raise it. And if we raised it, then we'd have all that excess water, and we could give part of that back to the state if they would help fund the building of the dam and the roadway. And so we might even consider changing our position with these other people if we were selfish enough to realize that this is our district and we need to protect ourselves first. So might we not befriend some people at a state level to help us fund that improvement by going along with them for the return that we give them a portion of the water that we're able to collect that we otherwise would have lost to them anyway?
Yeah. I mean, but
Isn't that how Lake Orville started, though? That
No.
a certain portion of water is going to go down, but then we'll take more. And
Yeah.
then that's like opening up a door
And
that
no-
scares me to death.
I mean, I live in Paradise. I love our town, but we're just such small potatoes. I mean, what's the most water we could devote to the delta? 6,000 acre feet a
feet,
year.
I
I
was
mean,
gonna say.
even then we'd have
Even
big
we were
big
talking-
water
we were
supply
talking
impacts.
already.
But that's a drop. I mean, that's a drop compared to they're talking sites reservoir water, 1.4 million acre feet.
Well, then, if they're not that interested, what's the worry? If we're just a draw.
Because they think they're going to take it for free.
Yeah.
That's my point. If they're going to take it, we got to get something out of it. Anyway.
Our best case for that is not Delta supply, but benefiting Butte Creek, which is a crown jewel of
Fishery system.
fisheries.
Well,
Yep.
So
Yeah, we'd have better luck selling that one than selling the Delta repair. Okay, why don't we go ahead and move on, boys, unless we've got some real serious questions to ask Dustin on that. Anybody from the public like to ask Dustin any questions on item number 12?
Legal report.
My first time here, but I am clueless as to what this appellate thing is about. You never stated what
Sorry.
that
The district is involved. It's a pending litigation matter, and I'll try to be brief, Mr. President. There's a constitutional provision that says very broadly, anytime the state imposes a new mandate on local governments, the state has to fund it. Well, over the years, the state has absolutely perverted that to where they don't fund anybody. Okay, so the case is seeking reimbursement for a state mandate that came from 2009, has to do with, coincidentally, mandatory water conservation. 20% by 2020, that's more of a political catchphrase, but you're supposed to, by 2020, have reduced your potable deliveries by 20% as measured against a baseline. Good.
Staff and building reports, item number 13. Is there any questions from any of the directors on there, or is there any item that you want to highlight for us? Otherwise, we are going to move forward pretty quick on this.
I'm good.
Okay, all those pages look good, yeah. Okay, now, there was nothing that really stood out on any of it. The only thing that I noticed was the sales. Our water loss seemed to be way down comparatively. Our lake levels seem to be up. comparatively to most years. We seem to be in a really good spot there. And our overall sales at the lake didn't seem to be quite as good as we've had in previous years, but we had a little bit more water, and Lake Orville was a little more available this last year, so I think that was one of the big contributing factors. So, but people still ask me all the time if there's kayaking going on. So, fishing still does end November 31st?
Fishing?
Yeah.
Nope. Fishing's year-round at Paradise Lake.
But by boat.
Boating is year-round.
I know boating's year-round, but I thought you could only fish from the shore on the one side.
Nope.
I thought the fishing closed like the rivers closed because we opened it up. But since we changed the boating, we changed the fishing regs.
Are you talking about like a fish and wildlife regulation?
Well, before our fishing always closed, didn't it?
No.
I thought it was closed on all sides of the lake except right close to like Greg's place.
Yeah, previously, that was the only part open in the winter,
Yeah.
and fishing was allowed.
Okay, but since we went to year-round boating, we're now year-round.
Everywhere, all the way around the lake.
Perfect. Okay, answers that question. Okay, did anybody from the public have any questions on the staff and billing report? Not seeing any. We're going to close the public participation part in that. Directors, anybody? Going once?
Yes.
Okay.
I just don't know if it's under what you're talking about. Is page, it doesn't have, it's page 78?
No.
No, that's me.
Treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report.
Should we move on to treasurer's report?
Oh, okay, as soon as we go to cash position, that's the treasurer's report.
Okay, we're moving on to the treasurer's report.
Okay, you have my written reports.
I do have questions about the other part on page 69.
Well, that's where we were just at. Okay.
Yeah. It was comparing variances from previous years on consumption bill. Income was up $186,000 in October and $228,000. Is that right on?
Yep, that's because of the rate increase.
Because of the rate increase, and yet the cash position's in the next report. So our variances in where we were going in the hole last year, according to this chart, now we're up that much money. So we should be moving around to a healthy situation on our cash flow.
We're moving there.
Okay.
Correct.
That's what the rate increase meant.
But the water use has finally gone up on the billing, water usage.
Yeah, from previous 2015.
Yeah, which is good. We have plenty of water to sell, just if they can afford it or not. So have we gained any, I thought we gained some meters. It says active meters in service 10,218. Is that up? Didn't we put some new meters in? No?
I mean, a few here and there, but
Nothing major.
nothing major. Nothing major. There hasn't been a huge development going that would
It's been years.
spike it.
It's been years that we've stuck around this 10,000 meters. Okay. Then we're selling water to Del Oro again?
Correct.
We bought-
We're not, to make sure everyone understands, we're not selling water to Del Oro. We
passing
are
it
getting
through.
paid to treat and deliver their water.
So
Yeah.
we're wheeling water for this?
Yes.
Okay. And that's a term that refers to taking care of somebody else's water and putting it through your system. And, okay, I'm ready for the next report.
Okay. Yeah, my written reports, our cash position is 1.9 million. It's actually creeping up slowly. Remember last meeting, we'd had that discussion about that big, large debt service payment. So that obviously chewed up a lot of our cash for that month, but you should start seeing it now trickle up now that that's kind of taken care of. From a consumption revenue standpoint, we're still actually down from what we projected, which we projected 90% of 2014. So we still haven't seen that full jump back of water consumption, even though you're seeing those big jumps in our consumption revenue. Those were expected. So we're still, from what we expected, we're actually still down. But because we have the rate structure that we have, there's room in there. So it's not such a huge concern now because we have $700,000 that we are expected to reserve. That's our cushion. So if we're down $200,000, then now we reserve $500,000. We're okay with that. We're still making sure our operations are taken care of. From an operational standpoint, actually, we're down from where we projected. Just from a staffing issue, we are down from we're really low on staffing. And we're still very, very conservative in a lot of our purchases. And the other thing, too, is AECOM was here today, and they were kind of halting some of the payments until we kind of get them caught up on their contracts. So right now, they're kind of working to get to that 70%. We've paid them 70%, so we're saying we're not going to make any more payments until that we see that 70%.
So you didn't point that out earlier. They're behind. That's a good thing.
I want to point out a few other things. I did change up the financial or the treasurer's report. So before, you remember, you had kind of multiple years that were kind of all lumped together. Then you had the current year and against the budget. So I took out all that old years, and I just put in kind of actual 4 months in from last year, actual 4 months currently. So we can kind of get an idea of where we were and where we've come from. Also, and then the budget numbers in there, and I kind of gave you a percentage to kind of bank off of what you should see in budget numbers to kind of get an idea. Are we trending above budget, or are we trending below budget? And if we're trending above, what's the reason why? So you can see that our water sales are actually up 34% from prior year.
Water sales volume or water sales dollar?
Both.
Okay.
The next page we'll see the volume versus the non. But that's combined water sales. So you can see that we're actually up 34%. That's our bulk of our revenue right there. And then you can see that we're actually down 8.3% on operating expenses from prior year. So we're actually we've decreased our operating expenses. If you look at debt service, it's right where we were last year. But if you look over on the next column, we're 63% of budget on debt service. That means that we've already taken care of 63% of our debt already this year, but we're only 33% into the year. So that kind of gives you an idea of where we're at, where we were last year and where we've kind of come. Here's where you get those numbers about volumetric versus service. You can see right here, we're actually a little bit down from our service costs, which we knew we knew that because we eliminated a few of the multifamilies. We moved them over to business, and we lost a little money on that, plus the CAP program. So we knew that we were going to be a little bit down on that, but you can see we're actually 132% of prior year consumption. So that's where the bulk of our additional revenue is coming from. So that kind of explains that, and that's obviously where the bulk of our revenue is going to be.
Before we go too much farther, Bill, you had a specific question that you wanted to?
It was in 78 or 79.
Haven't got to it yet.
We haven't got there. Page 75
Okay, I'm sorry.
is the first one, but
Let's hit there. So this is kind of where I project our budget numbers to be at versus where we actually came in. And so you can see that we're actually 288 down from where I budgeted, expected to be this year. And again, I remember telling you last board, I don't know, that could actually decrease based on the winter months on what we see. This is based on more of what we were doing when we had tiered rates and how that revenue came in based on those tiered rates. So we'll still see how that comes going forward. But this is kind of where I projected where we're at and where I project we'll kind of end up if everything kind of goes where we plan on it. Bill, you had a question on this one?
just what you talked about, the 288,000, the figures below it are budget with on top of it actual for July, and you see consistently across on those figures that were on actual compared to budget, we're down almost. Finally in November, Well, it isn't November.
November's just the budget number.
We're still down from that, and that's why it's accumulated to 288,000. Obviously, our budget is off one way or the other, and we can't count on it.
Well, the thing is, you can't count on consumption, and that's one of the problems with a heavy consumption base rate, is because consumption is variable based on multiple factors, and so it is a crapshoot in a way. So what we did is we took an estimate of 2014. We thought people would bounce back, maybe use a little more water, and we took 90% of that, and that's what we kind of
We
used.
still were in a conservation year, so I mean.
Right, and so people haven't bounced back. So,
Well,
but
and plus, we just had pretty good load of rain here in October, and I don't know about you, but I turned my sprinklers off
I did
for
too.
3 weeks.
Yeah,
You're going to see that hit us in our November.
There's a reason why we were at 82, I think was the lowest I saw our percentage go on lake level. People
Yeah,
are driving
and
through town and goes, that number can't be right. You guys can't be at 82. And I'm like, yeah, we're just, lake's looking great, you know. It's,
November number based on normal estimations should come in pretty close to that 183. Just looking at the preliminary numbers coming in, even though our consumption was way down, it took that into consideration. So, so hopefully we'll bounce back through some of the winter months and see a big spike maybe in May and June. Operating expenses, like I said, we're down in operating expenses. This shows you where we were last year at this time versus where we're at this year, and we're only 32% of budget, or 30% of budget operational wise. So we're actually down in budget.
I have a question on that.
Sure.
On administration, outside services.
Yep.
Last year was 70,000. This year
Oh, that's a good point, and I actually looked at that.
128.
Yeah, and the biggest portion of that is actually the outside services associated with refinancing that debt. So we had to pay bond fees or bond counsel fees and trustee fees and the brokerage fees, and that accumulated to about $45,000 to refinance that debt. But even with that refinance,
ultimately, we still came out.
we still
ahead.
saved money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what that big variance is from prior year.
Okay.
Yep.
Good eye, though.
Yeah. Thank
That's
you.
a good point. I was going to mean to point that out, but I'm glad you caught that. Here's our current debt service, what we're looking at this year, what's going to fall off in the next years. And then this hopefully kind of helps with the board and knowing when our debt service payments are coming up for future months. So you can kind of see the blue is the budgeted number, meaning where we assume that we're going to make, where the amortization schedule tells you to make the payments. And the green is the actual payments that have been made. So you can kind of see where things are where they should be paid and when they'll be paid. So you can see that's the big doozer right there, the $500,000, and we've already made this payment. That was that Capital One payment. We've made a big payment here. So if you're looking down below, it's pretty small, other than you get a big one kind of here and here. This one actually is just property taxes that we collect and pay out. So we're looking pretty much for the remainder of the year pretty good shape for debt service.
My question on this page is the 430,000 on principal and 96,000 on interest, which came out exact, and that was our new loan.
No, that's the COP. That's the one that you went out and borrowed for the meter replacement project.
Okay.
And that's a 15-year loan. The new loan is right here, the 111,000. That right there.
Okay, that's the new one then.
That's the new loan.
And this is going to be the payment for the next 14 years on the bond?
On this new loan, the combined on the bond? No.
130.
No, that has, well, I'll tell you. It's going to be about that till 2024.
Okay, so we have, whatever we do, we need to have some reserve to meet that payment
8
when
years.
it comes.
That's included in our budgeted expenses, so we know that when we bring money in, that we have the money to pay that out every year.
And the final payment, you're referring to the final payment?
Final payments in reserve.
That's restricted cash anyway, so.
And then here's our major capital projects for the current year where we've spent our money. So we've, that's about it.
Well, while we're on that one, I forgot on my manager's report. I've got a re-kickoff meeting scheduled with Dustin and our water rights engineer team in December. So we're going to get that
Good.
process back rolling again.
We'll finally have a report on what we're doing for water rights, is that it?
We're going to start working on it again, yes.
State isn't so interested in their other items right now, so maybe we'll come back. We can get some progress from them, right?
Yeah, now that from there, the state's input, it's not as affecting their workload, so hopefully
Yeah.
we can get together with our team, then meet their team, and figure out what we need to do to move forward.
All right, gentlemen, we're 20 seconds away from having to make a decision whether or not
Well,
we're
I
going
move that
to.
we accept the
I have a
October
question on page
2016 staff
Another
and
question.
building
Page
report.
80.
So,
We never
Okay,
made a motion
stop.
on the staff.
so we didn't need to make a motion on the
Yeah,
staff.
we did.
We do?
Yeah,
Yes, we do.
this action may be taken.
I'm sorry. We do.
When
we
you
did-
actually hear them, you accept them, but it doesn't hurt the world if you don't
Yeah, it's
accept
not
them.
material.
Yeah, okay.
Non-material.
Okay, so we need to make a motion whether or not to extend the meeting past 10 o'clock. And
I make a motion, we extend the meeting past 10 o'clock. We're almost done.
to not exceed what?
How many questions you got, Bill?
I got one.
10 minutes?
To not exceed-
Director's comments up.
15 minutes.
To not exceed
10:15.
10:15. I'll second. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
No,
No.
it's tied.
I think I heard Ken say aye.
No, he would have said no. So
Is
we're
that an
done.
abstention, a yes?
All right, gentlemen, then we're done.
We're done.
Holy crap.
Okay.
No director's comment.
I want to ask
Bill.
you a question,
Bill.
George.
Bill, I'll answer your question.
When you go to that meeting tomorrow,
No.
who else is going to be there?